Okay, I've got it going here. So you don't mind doing this?
Yep.
I just got to run to town real quick.
All right.
The recording's all up and running. It's already going right now, so all I need you to do is just read from the screen there. You see the text on the screen?
Yep.
I just need you to go through that, read it for the intro,
Okay.
and then hit the red recording button to stop it,
Uh-huh.
and then we should be good to go. You good? You got it?
Sure, boss.
Okay. See you later.
Goodbye. Okay, what we got here? This must be the microphone right here. Hello? The thing on? Hello, everybody. This is Mickey. Brian met me under the bridge at Stratford and said I could help him out with this project, so looks like is this thing on? Just gotta read what's on the screen here. Looks like this is the Lost Context podcast. I don't know much about podcasts or what these are, but looks like on this episode we got some guy named Chris Riley.
Dude, I'll give you some advice. When in doubt, just go for racism. It will win you the day.
And then we have Wesley Sullivan.
I, as a religious minority, declare that I have the power to decide 10 Jews.
And then we have it, Marc Boggio. Some kind of Canadian, apparently. I don't have much use for them, really.
I think what's amazing about him though is he's like a celebratory level of gay. Like he loves being gay so much. It's kind of awesome.
And then we got a funny name here, Ignts. It looks like Mrtnz. Mrtnz. Looks like his name is Mrtnz. I don't know what kind of name that is.
My mom's a dick, dude.
Then we got Brody Raney.
But then there's so much lore and like stuff that you have to really kind of start at the beginning to understand. It's kind of like a Coheed and Cambria record.
Looks like we got a special intro music by a guy named Tim Demeus, something like that. His name's Tim anyway. And this is me, Mickey Boy, filling in for Brian Bridges, whatever his name is. We always call him Obo Brian down at the tracks. Anyway, I guess I hope you folks enjoy this podcast, and I guess that's all he needed me to do for him. So I'm gonna go find that beer he promised me. How do I turn this thing off? Is I push this button? Or maybe it was this button. Oh, the big red record button. That's right. Okay.
Bop dop dop do up dop dop do up dop dop do making music podcast intro tell you yeah podcast intro
I've never been to Toronto.
It is an interesting town, I'll tell you that much.
They have black and red squirrels.
They're more brown.
I saw red squirrels there.
Yeah, we have gray ones too. Lots of squirrels there though.
I like Toronto. Toronto's fun.
Yeah, it's not a bad place. I mean, I think that I hear a lot on like YouTube channels and stuff of people calling it like the San Francisco of Canada, and honestly, it's really not that
I thought
bad.
it was Vancouver.
No. Although it is where Anita Sarkeesian's from. We actually went to the same university, so I could have stopped it. I could have stopped all of Gamergate before it happened. Had I just joined one gender studies class and debated one feminist about gaming at the right time, I could have ended all the pain before it started.
Nice.
I'm the Kyle Reese of
I'm not a
Gamergate.
supporter of the whole Gamergate nonsense, but she's a goddamn cunt. I'm sorry.
Mark, you've got to go back in time and pull out your boot gun and shoot her.
I had two legs at the time.
Holy shit.
The lost leg was a pretty recent thing. I mean, like, I don't even think she's worth, like, laying into that much. Like, her opinions are just kind of ridiculous.
That means if past Mark ever comes into and meets future Mark, he'll be like, "What?
Yeah, I'd be like,
I lose my leg,
bro, you're a cyborg
You're gonna be like one of those haggard old warriors from the future. Now you just need an eye patch."
Yeah. Well, I'm an army medic too, so like I said, I'm a couple steps away from flat out being Venom Snake. Lost a different limb, but yeah.
I've seen a lot of shit, kid. It doesn't get any better, trust me.
Kiefer Sutherland only recorded like 2 hours of dialogue for this whole game.
Who the hell's knocking on my window?
It's a lot lizard.
I'm gonna speak for like 4 cinematics. Other than that, I'm just gonna grunt a lot and stare into the camera.
We're all the way up to Fast and the Furious 24.
All of the original actors are dead, but they just hologram them.
They brought back what's his name?
Paul.
I mean, they did kind of CGI him into 7. Yeah, it was 7.
Yeah,
Well,
for like a good portion of it, I think. Didn't they have
never
like his
stopped the Star
brother
Wars film.
stand in and then they CGI'd his face?
Yeah. They had similar facial structures and like proportions.
I thought they
I
handled it
haven't
pretty
seen
well.
a Fast and Furious movie since Tokyo Drift.
Then you stopped one movie before they started getting kind of good. 5, it really it turns into a different type of movie. Like the first 3 are street racing movies that have a little bit of heist stuff, whereas 4 is kind of shitty. It's where Gal Gadot shows up, so like she's attractive, but it's a bad movie. 5 though is just like a legit good heist movie that just happens to have some cars in it, and 6 and 7 and 8 get kind of ridiculous, but they're going in the right direction of ridiculous. Like that's where they get to the point where it's like, okay, we know what we're doing now. This is insane. Hardly any of it's gonna make sense, but now we have like Jason Statham and The Rock doing cool shit too. So like whatever, who cares?
This is how we kicked off the last episode with me saying I'd never seen a Fast and the Furious movie.
I've seen 5, and that's the. I quite liked it. The others don't sound as appealing to me, but I thought 5 was fun.
Yeah, 5 I think is the best one. That kind of struck a good balance of like decently taking itself serious heist movie and like crazy shit happening, whereas 6 and 7 and 8 kind of lean a lot harder into the crazy shit, and it's fun because you're sort of along for the ride pun at that point. But I don't think anyone would really call them good movies in the traditional sense, but they're fun to watch. I would take a Fast and the Furious movie over a Transformers movie any day. I'll put it that way. But they're roughly on the same level.
We have a bit to get through, so I'm jumping right into the week here. So we talked about last episode. Last episode we talked about that on Tuesdays is typically going to be podcast meme day, but not last week. Last week, the Tuesday turned into more drama from the weekend, from inviting those new girls.
Oh God!
Who did that, by the way?
Invited the new girls?
Yeah, who was that?
I'm only taking credit for Megan.
Okay.
I was about to say, what wasn't it, Brian?
Let's see. So Kyle 2 had missed out on the weekend, and so she wanted to get in on the drama because she's a girl. So she jumped in and started complaining about me, and then I decided, since she was grumbling, she could fix the problems herself. So I gave her my admin powers and I stepped down. And then I that was like 4 a.m. when I did that, and I just went to sleep knowing full well that I would wake up to chaos. I woke up and I couldn't even keep track of everything that had happened, so I'm a little hazy here. I noticed that she allowed Megan to stay. She banned April, but then Megan re-added April, so Kyle banned both of them, and then she made Tanya and Tara. I keep saying Tara now because of stupid Alex. Tanya and Tara mods, and then Tara wanted April back so that she could fight with her some more. It went on and on and on, and then eventually all of the OG admins got their powers back, and all the Whammons were made mods, and Kyle left the group. So that was a fun start off to the week.
Can I ask a quick question about that whole situation?
Yep.
Is is it just instinct that if new girls arrive at, let's say, really any place, the girls that were already there will just automatically hate them?
Well, this whole thing, everything I did this last weekend was a joke. I was just having fun. And then it really transformed into a social experiment for me. I was fascinated as I started like doing different things and trying to see what kind of reactions I'd get out of it.
Yeah, the girls in this group are kind of like beta fish, where if they see another beta fish, they'll instantly attack them.
Yeah, their gills just flare out. And
It's like little boys that put a scorpion and a spider in a jar and shake them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was surreal to watch. Like, it was just like, what? Why do you guys hate each other so much? Like, you don't know anything about each other. Why don't you fucking just bro out a little?
Are you with us, Brody? For real?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm out walking my dog. I just jumped.
All right, on. Cool. So, what I learned, when I first did the weekend and everything started happening, this was my perspective, and I learned later on that I didn't have the full picture. I assumed that I modded April and that all the girls got jealous because they desired to be in positions of power or something like that, even though we look at it and we think these positions don't mean anything. It's just a joke. But as it turned out later, Tara said she had done her usual just banter and stuff like she does with everybody, and April actually fired some pretty hostile shots back at her, and they were actually like, they weren't jokes, they were like mean. So their upset at April wasn't just because she got a mod position, it was because she actually did say something. So it was a little different than I realized. It wasn't quite as petty or trivial.
Yeah, I only saw the petty and trivial part, so it was supremely confusing to me.
And then, let's see, I have a part here that I don't know if I can talk about because it has to do with somebody's alt account, and I think it's still ongoing.
You don't compromise the alt.
No, it could be a good joke later, so I'm going to leave that one off the radar. Matthew James, that's a good one. This is a good alt story. Matthew James started Dank Master Demigod.
Yeah.
And he ran around posting Ben Shapiro memes. And some of them were actually pretty funny.
I thought that was you when that account first popped up.
Everybody always thinks the alts are me at first.
Well, you have like 19 alts, so you can't really blame us.
You're going to run out of vowels here pretty soon.
Matthew also started Tara Dixoff. And,
That's all right.
He lasted about 2 hours before he couldn't take it anymore, especially when people thought they were my accounts. And so he revealed 2 hours later that he was like, "It's me! Fooled you guys!" It was me the whole time, this whole 2 hours. And then Wednesday is when the D&D groups started forming. Which one of you guys are in the D&D groups?
I am.
Who's involved?
I am.
I think it's just me. Oh, and Ian gets in there too.
I need to make my fucking character tomorrow too. What time are we supposed to play?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, I have sexual harassment training at work tomorrow, so I think I want to say.
What did you do?
4? Oh no, this is for everybody, not like just.
Yeah, apparently at his company they're really bad at sexually harassing each other, so they need to be trained.
It's okay to have sexual harassment training. It's only a problem when you are personally having remedial sexual harassment training.
One of the slides on their slideshow is going to be that woman in the meme tournament grabbing that statue's crotch. Like this is how you grab them. Like do it like this.
So when you help a woman out with her computer, you always want to lean over them and then put your hand across their hand on the mouse.
Get in real close to their ear.
All week since we found out about this training, I've been joking that we only have a week left to sexually harass each other.
Yeah.
It's a fucking restaurant, so it's not like anybody's gonna stop.
Yeah.
And when you get in close, make sure to take a moment and smell the hair.
So you have learned something about your lot lizards.
Oh, you wouldn't want to smell that hair, good lord.
It won't be more than a month before someone's like, "Hey, a new hostess got hired. Guess what training she hasn't had yet?"
Are you the guy from Waiting? Are you Ryan Reynolds? Going after the 16-year-old hostess?
No, I'm not. I actually,
Oh, I thought
I'm
that's
the
what
worst, the worst service industry person ever because I haven't seen Waiting. No, I'm the grizzled veteran that's been bartending for 10 years and is sick of your shit.
Oh, I would have taken you for an Andy Milanakis.
He's the bishop.
I'm glad I'm not in management anymore, though. Management sucks. I'm just bartending full time now.
Chris,
Yes.
I just realized why just realized why on the podcast I keep calling you Riley. It's because your username on Discord is Riley Coyote, so I read it and I just say it without even thinking.
That's perfect. That's fine with me. There's too many Chris's in the group anyway.
I think of you as Riley, too.
We're gonna start calling you Manly instead of Brian.
All right.
Am I the only Mark?
I don't know any other Marks.
I think at the very least I might be the only Mark with a C.
Completely.
I'm surprised there aren't many other Brians. There's just Diaz.
Pretty sure I'm the only Ignatius.
Yeah, you got that. You got that locked down.
My mom's a dick, dude.
All right.
My cousin was talking about naming his son after me, and I told him, don't you fucking dare do that to that child.
Tell him to name him Ingot.
My mom's a dick is definitely your intro soundbite.
No, it's just going to be all of our different coughs.
I don't think I've gotten one on mic yet. Maybe in the Discord.
So, another incident on Wednesday is that Michael Lozano got another 30-day ban.
Oh, man.
It was right on schedule.
What was it for?
Sounds like another win for the gay agenda.
Over the weekend, he was like, "You guys think I'm gonna get banned today?" And I was like, "No, but you will this week." And then, sure enough, Wednesday, poof, he was gone.
We need like a scab gay to bring in while Michael's banned.
Yeah.
We have the Asian gay guy.
Yeah, we have the Asian gay guy and we have the Austrian.
Yeah, but are any of them as gay as Michael? Come on. That's the gayest guy I've ever seen.
I don't
Where's
think
Dieter?
he's gayer. He just...
Dieter's the Austrian.
I think what's amazing about him though is he's like a celebratory level of gay. Like he loves being gay so much. It's kind of awesome.
New York City gays are like free-range gays. They're in the wild.
So, in his memory, after he got banned, Tony changed the theme to the "Is It Gay" memes, and immediately Michael messaged me on Instagram and was like, "Again?" He's like, "Every time I get banned, you guys have a gay theme and I don't get to participate."
That's the only time when it's safe to do so. One thing's for sure, though. The best name that we've ever had as a group was Penis, 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 Penis. And we had, I think, 2 or 3 members join as soon as... Because we have a new admin, Coyote Mitsubishi. And he saw in his infinite wisdom to change the group from secret to closed, which meant that people could actually find the group by searching in the search bar on Facebook. And as soon as the name went to having penis in it, we gained like 3 new members.
Penis.
Who is Coyote Mitsubishi? Is that Chris Cowart?
I don't know. The world will never know. It's like
It's
one
a
of
mystery.
those great mysteries.
Yeah, we've been trying to
Yeah,
figure
I
that
don't
out
know.
for freaking ever.
He didn't seem too happy about the fact that I was... he was the only one that complained about me captioning every single thing in the meme contest because I wasn't in it.
Yeah, seriously though, we need to talk
He's
about
like,
that
dude, you're
because I
stealing
mean,
all the good ideas. I'm just like,
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
you, I'm
that
not in the
takes-
contest.
yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
write
not
the
like
shit
it-
out of these jokes.
the Pin 15 copy pastas were pretty great.
Yeah.
Especially the one that Blake did where it was like he would write Pin 15 on other people's penises or something like that. He just really took it down to the most basic level and it was genius in its simplicity.
On Saturday, Megan invited this crazy 800-year-old dude to the group. He's got like dementia or something, and he started like getting into it with Randall Savage.
How the hell did I miss that?
So that's not her dad.
No, that was just a bit she was doing. Apparently, this I guess the story is that they had an online class together or something, and now he's like in love with her and follows her around and stuff, and he's just this creepy old man.
Oh yeah, engaging with him is probably a really smart idea.
Oh yeah. Fortunately, he lives in the U.S. and she's from South Africa, so they got some distance between them.
He seemed really determined to find the gay Frenchman, which I never understood what that was about.
Apparently, she has this real life friend, and I saw one comment where she was like, "He's actually my friend in real life, and he's creeped out by you, so please stop." And he was like, "Okay," and she was like, "Thank you." And then Sunday is when we started the meme tournament. And that's what's going on right now until Tuesday. We're on round 1 of the CLC Meme Lord tournament. Who's in it? Who's here? It's
not me, that's
Chris
for
is in
sure.
it. Is it everybody but Mark?
Everybody but Mark.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm in.
I'm not either.
Ingot, did you step out?
I suggested that I be replaced, and then was told that I had to participate, and then got left out of the bowl, motherfuckers.
That's right.
Exactly
I remember now.
what CLC administration is like.
What a great
Well,
metaphor.
actually, I forgot about that. On Thursday, Ingot made a comment. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was something about you want to see something, make me an admin or something. I don't even remember what you said. Do you remember?
You made me an admin, and then you made me not an admin anymore, and then I asked to be, because I wanted to see the chat, the admin chat.
Well, so on Thursday you made a comment and you were like, "I'll show you something or other, make me an admin," and I did, but I didn't tell you. And so then on Friday, Tony finally like clued you in that you'd been an admin this whole time. And I was gonna do a joke about how like, well, I made you an admin and you didn't do anything for like half a week, so I'm just gonna de-admin you because you're not using your powers anyway.
Not only did I not know that until just now, I don't even remember that comment. So
I could go find it.
I post on here drunk a lot. I drink almost every night. So.
Well, that was my stupid bit that I was gonna do, but then out of nowhere, Tony just added you to the admin chat and made it all official, and I was like, okay. And then I was gonna ask you, how what's it like? How now that you've been promoted, do you feel powerful? Do you feel like your life has changed?
I feel no different. I enjoy it. I enjoy bullshitting with all you guys. It's great. I probably will never use my admin powers.
That sounds about right.
That's what I
mean,
said.
up until the last couple of months ago, I mostly just lurk and drunk post on here, even though I've been around since day one.
We can't use our admin powers anymore anyway, apparently, because Cody will ban us all.
And Tara will have a fit.
Yeah, pretty much the only admin powers we're able to use are adminning other people. Or de-adminning ourselves.
All we can do is replicate.
Yeah. So how do you guys feel about your entries to the meme tournament and your competition? How you guys been doing?
I kind of like the first one I made, but I've had a few different ideas, and I just want them to be good. That's why I didn't, splurge out in 10 minutes like Choppa. But
yeah,
not really. I don't really like my score so much.
There's been some good entries so far, though.
Yeah, there's great ones.
Yeah, I think
especially Wesley's.
Oh.
Wesley was all like nervous. He's like sending me his stuff, and he's like, "Is it funny? Tony's gonna destroy me." And I was laughing so hard at the stuff he sent me, and I was like, "You need to get some confidence because this shit's funny." And then he posted them, and he's absolutely destroying Tony.
By far.
Tony's like in a panic now. Tony has one more meme to make, and he's like, "Damn, I gotta make this good." Wesley's gonna body bag me.
And the thing is if you wait too long, you're not going to get any reactions to it, and so.
Yeah, he's got till midnight tomorrow. So he has one more day.
Oh, it goes till tomorrow. Okay, I thought tonight was the last night.
Oh, my favorite that I made was the Caitlyn Jenner spoof.
Yeah, Call Me Caitlyn is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So, reminder to everyone listening. Well, Are they going to listen to this before voting's over?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, go find the pinned post in the group and go and react to the ones you like. Go through all of the memes.
Yeah, we need to encourage more people to do that.
Yeah.
I got to go up against Joe Spinato.
Oh, that's tough competition. For sure.
I thought the left can't meme.
They can't.
Well, they can't. But here's the thing. Joe, I think he was drunk when this thing took off, and so he just wrote this scribbly stuff on our generic picture that we got a meme. And if you don't know the rules, we're doing 3 memes for one generic picture, and we're all paired up together, and we got to go head to head. We each have our own generic picture we got to fight over. So Joe made 3 memes from this picture, and he just scribbled this stuff on them, and it looked so bad, but it was like so stupid that it's funny. And the last one he posted was like, "Kill all cops, every one of them," or something. It was this black guy.
All cops are bastards. Yeah.
And
was he doing it with like just scribbling on with like a paint
the first
app or
2 he
something,
did.
or
That one he actually typed the letters, and the first one he scribbled. The second one was just this nonsense about how it's like, I'm not ugly, you're ugly, blah.
Yeah, it was Nirvana lyrics.
But the third one he said, "Kill all cops," and it was funny because he's just playing off of his Joe Spinato shtick that he's had forever about being anti-cops.
Yeah.
And so it immediately got 11 laugh reacts, combined with a couple others from his previous posts. And so he's got like 13 right now. And I tried. I'm thinking of my memes too much as a science, I think, because I really tried to like sit down and think, what's funny? How can I Photoshop this well? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I've gotten so far about 10 reacts.
Joe Spinato's memes come from the heart.
It's true. It's true. So he's actually in the lead. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to take my last one and switch it up because I'm falling behind.
Dude, I'll give you some advice. When in doubt, just go for racism. It will win you the day.
Get that low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. I liked the one that Matthew James and Devontae had. I wish Devontae wouldn't have just conceded.
Oh, you like their generic picture? They got a
picture.
Which one was that?
I can't remember what it is.
The Tony as Uncle Fester one.
Yeah.
I sent Matthew a couple of...
I was really proud of my caption on that one. I think it was like, when you want to dress up as the bank robbers from Dead Presidents for Halloween, but everyone just thinks you're Uncle Fester.
So one cool thing that I think that it's been decided, I don't know, you never know, the rules change constantly on this stuff, but I think in the later rounds, like maybe the Final Four and up, it's gonna also incorporate like a meme remix where you not only get your normal photo that you do 3 memes of, but you also get to go back and remix one of the other, kind of memes that were out there. So where, like, if you really liked one style, one picture or whatever, and didn't get to use it in your round, then you can go and grab it and make your meme. And
so there you go. If they really like the Tony as Uncle Fester one, they can go back and remix it.
Nice.
Yep, and for the grand finale, I think it's going to be 2 stock pictures, 3 memes each, and then 3 remixes. So that one's going to be a hell of a round.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And if you win, you get the gayest belt ever.
What's the belt? What's the prize?
It's like kind of a rainbow sort of belt off of Zazzle, and it has like a meme tournament champion on it, and rainbows all over it.
See, I think it would be way funnier if you just said, well, it's just a plain black belt, but Michael Lozano wore it last weekend.
Yeah, it's been completely inserted.
That belt has stories.
I want to jump into a segment here, and I think we're going to call this is a new segment. I think we're going to call it Going Deeper with Wesley Sullivan. Is that what you want, Wesley?
Yes, that is the name for my segment.
And
I think
of course,
Lozano
did you
wants
say
that too?
Did you say sexment? It is of course the double list of entendres. So this segment, Wesley's got some questions for us. Here, we're going to start out, shoot for 3 maybe. Wesley's got 3 deep questions in different categories, and we're just going to try and talk about them real quick.
Going deeper
Going deeper.
with Wesley Sullivan.
Wesley. Oh, Wesley. Oh, Wesley.
Going deeper with Wesley Sullivan.
Okay, so this is something, the subject I noticed first when I first went up to university. I live in a community, it's mostly Caucasians, a few Latinos. When I went to university, there were a fair amount of black students. And, you see them in TV, but it's really the first interaction I had with them outside of a few trips. But the question is, and this really boggles my mind, why are the palms of black people's hands
Oh my god.
I'm serious. Look at their hands. All right.
You may have to repeat the question because I didn't get any of that.
Why are the palms of black people's hands much lighter in color than the rest of them?
When I
They
was
go
in
from-
grade school, there was a joke that it was because God had put their hands against the wall when he spray painted
I'm
them.
so happy I didn't have to be the one to tell that joke.
Oh, man.
They go from like molasses to like a pink cupcake on their palm. It's crazy.
Here's the reason why I love Wesley's question so much. Is because I've wondered that all my life, but I've never had the guts to ask it.
So, any ideas, like, as far as, why do you think melanin in the skin does that?
I think we're going to have to ask G's on this one.
I don't know. It's the same for Hispanics. I think your melanin is just concentrated in areas of your skin that are exposed to the sun more.
Oh, okay. I see.
There's got to be genetics involved, right? I would think there has to be genetics.
Well, any soft tissue tends to be a lighter color on pretty much people of almost any race.
Well, isn't all of the skin just soft tissue?
Well, I mean, like the more sensitive areas.
I do know some stuff about it. I think it has to do with...
Vaginas are pink. Vaginas are pink. They just are.
Okay, well, we went there.
Well, part of it is also keratin cells, keratinocytes, I think. I have some medical training, so I know a bit about this, but honestly, anatomy and physiology was never really my strong suit. I mostly did well with the actual medicine part. But, I think it has to do with the fact that, kind of like what you were saying, your melanin will be concentrated more in the areas that are traditionally exposed to the sun, and also you're bending the skin of your hand inward a lot, which moves around things like the keratin, which are, like how you get, keratin's kind of like callus material. It's, what else would be keratin? The things that scab up, when you get blisters. So your palms develop that a lot, and it does not hold melanin as well, or melasomes. I gotta research this to really tell you for sure. Don't use me as the science source on this one.
So what about dark Hispanic people? Are their palms whiter?
Even white people are, actually. If you look at your hand, your palms are not the exact same color as the outside of your hand. And even me, I'm kind of an olive-skinned Italian guy, and my hands look a lot more pink and white person-ish than the back of my hand, which is more olive. And in the summer, I get super tanned, and my palms don't get tanned, right? So.
Are we ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on to your butts.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I've always wondered, does alcohol taste good, or is it only consumed for its effects? I've never tasted it, but I've smelt it on people, Like the guys in my dorm would come home drunk and they'd like throw up, or you just smell it on their clothes, and it smells awful to me. But I'm just curious, do people like it for the taste or just its effects?
The short answer is acquired taste. So I wouldn't say really any type of alcohol tastes good if you're like a 7-year-old and you take a sip of it. But as you drink more and like start trying out different types of drinks, like different cocktails, different types of beer, different liquors, you kind of develop your own taste for what you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started drinking beer at about 26 or 27, and I'd never really done any drinking before.
Oh my.
And the first it was my brother-in-law at the time tried to introduce me to craft beer because he said it's not like Budweiser, it's different, it's got flavor. And so I tried some light stuff, and the first one I tried was apricot. I super hated it, and then he took me out to a kind of a pub, and we started playing pool, and I got another light one. Something was different, and I actually liked that one, and it grew on me, and then all of a sudden, because I'm Mr. Variety, I like to try different things. Craft beer was my world because there's just an endless assortment to try, and I got as I developed, I got darker and darker, but at the time
Except
I
for
hated
your palms.
That's right.
That's what's called a callback.
I didn't know about IPAs or pale ales or what the difference was, or ambers or lagers, and so I just started trying stuff and learning and reading about it, and I did some darker ones at the time. Could not get into them, they were so strong. But then as I worked at it and tried different flavors, now dark beer and IPAs and things are my preference, and I almost don't even like the light beers anymore.
Do you go as far as like a stout?
Oh yeah, stouts are my favorite.
I can maybe on like St. Patrick's Day or something I'll have a stout, like if I'm at like an Irish pub that has like good craft beer, but like I tend to kind of stick to like heavy bisons and lagers. I guess I'm kind of a pussy in that sense. I try not to get too adventurous with beers. I really, really like beer, though. I tend to go for the simpler stuff.
It was the same with wine. I started out with white, couldn't get into it, but then when I got some of those terrible like candy wines, like sweet sugar water juice
like
wines.
Zinfandel.
Yep, Moscato, and
That's
it got
shit
me
right
in
there, man.
It got me through the door. And then I started doing red wines, and now I almost don't even like white wines anymore.
I've always preferred reds, like from the hop.
So I would say in answer to Wesley's question, I don't think it's, well, because I used to be intrigued by vodka, but I wouldn't say that I necessarily enjoyed the flavor. I just thought it was interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the alcohol flavor so much as what they put into it and what they do to it.
Okay, I see.
There's so much out there. There's a world of difference between a Budweiser and a stout, or a white wine and a whiskey. They're just not even in the same like world.
Okay.
It's like all these things are made around alcohol to make it taste good. And then, of course, you want the effects of alcohol, but straight alcohol is impossible to drink unless you're a fucking moonshiner or something.
Has anybody tried that alcohol powder?
That sounds like a horrible idea.
That sounds like cocaine.
No, like I wrote about this a few years ago, that there's like some sort of alcohol powder, and it gets you fucked up, and you can like put it in anything, and like it's pretty crazy. But I guess nobody knows about it. So
my only experience with a powdered drink and alcohol was when I was about 22 or so, and I was dating a girl who wanted to drink with two of her friends at my house and two of my buddies. So we were like, all right, this is going to be a good time. So we go to the grocery store, and she's like, oh, what am I going to get for mix? Like, I have a big bottle of vodka, I just don't know what I'm going to get for mix. I'm just like, get whatever you want. So, like, I go off and I get this stuff because I was going to cook dinner, so I bought the stuff for the food, and she went off and got what I thought was going to be juice or something, and what she ended up picking up was just some packs of Kool-Aid. This girl just poured Kool-Aid powder into straight vodka that night and drank it. And this was Canadian winter, Like, it was my parents' house, too, at the time. I think my parents were gone, though, at the time, because they did not bear witness to any of this. At one point, she started... It's okay. She started freaking out, said that
I can't find my fresh 2-gram one, but I got the 1-gram one.
Ingot, you're the worst.
What?
And then
I'm remuting you.
Alright, so she just said at a random point in the night, she got totally shit-faced and said, I want to go home. Walked outside in pajama bottoms and one of my t-shirts, barefoot, in, like, waist-high snow. Like, it was a fucking snowy as fuck day. And walked all the way down the street. And me and my buddy Ryan, who I don't think is in the meme group, but he's in the CLS group, had to chase her down the street and carry her back to the house. We eventually, like, got her up to my bed. I kind of, like, tried to calm her down, like, warm her up, got her under the covers. And then she eventually kind of came to, and then just attacked me. Like, started clawing at my face and stuff. Like, drew blood. It was like she seriously beat me up. And then the next day, I had to go work at the Canadian equivalent of GameStop. And my manager just looks at me. He's just like, did you get attacked by, like, a cheetah? Like, what the hell happened to you? Like, you've got cuts all over your face. I'm like, Christina got really drunk last night. And then he's like, did she beat you up? And I'm like, I'd like to say no, but, I mean, technically, yeah, she did.
The story is actually about abducting a girl and bringing her back to your house.
Oh, believe me, it was not.
All right, Wesley, next question.
Okay, well, I have a few more, not just the 3, but all right. Here's the thing, everyone talks about send Bobs and Vagine, but you also see here. Follow with me. You always see, like, these women in the group are posting pictures of themselves, and everyone's commenting on their ass. And I just don't get the obsession. What is so great about the ass? There are far more attractive parts on a woman.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I mean, there's some beautiful asses out there.
But what's appealing about it? What?
Okay.
There's no reason biologically why.
Yeah, well, there is. Biologically, there is. That's an easy one.
You do know that there's more than one sexual position, right, Wesley?
Well, no, but from like a biological, like, if you want to talk about how we're hardwired as animals, like a large hip area, which generally will extend to the ass, is generally, like, indicative of being able to bear children. So there is,
blah
like,
blah 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 blah
saying,
evolution.
There's
I'm
a
just
genetic thing in us. That
Just tell us what your kinks are.
That's the age. That's like everybody goes to that. Well, men are attracted to this because
How fucked
women
would it be
are...
if my kink was feet? It's not, but I've only got one of them.
I get that maybe evolution plays a part of, like, in biology and stuff, and having, preserving your line as far as what guys are attracted to. It's just funny to me because I've never looked at a woman and thought, damn, I'll bet she could have babies.
Not that you know of. I'm saying, like, he said there's no biological reason why, and I'm saying, well, that's not true at all. There is one. It's just probably not the one that most of us are thinking about when we're looking at an ass.
Carl, you're such a Jordan Peterson sometimes.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, Mark. I hadn't thought of, the hips. Having birthing hips makes sense, but everyone always talks about her, a woman's ass. So thank you for clarifying that.
It's not one of my things. When we actually had a poll in the group not too long ago, was like boobs versus asses, and I actually voted boobs.
Yeah, because that's the correct answer.
I must be hardwired to want a woman that can nurse well.
Yeah, you probably are.
All right, you got another question, Wesley?
Well, this is kind of like my first one.
Let's keep
I'm afraid to ask this, like, to somebody black that I know.
So why do black people have white palms is okay, but this one is going to cross the line? This one is going to be a doozy.
Oh, God.
I don't know. So, Do black people get sunburned, and how can they tell?
Yes.
Yes, and they can tell because it hurts.
But they have nothing. It's not fair. It's dark.
You are not immune to ultraviolet radiation if you're black. You're more resistant to it because the melatonin protects you the way sunscreen protects us. But yes, you can still get sunburned if you're black. It just will take a lot longer.
Okay.
Oh man.
I've only had sunburn twice in my life, and I'm not even that dark. And I've been to like Hawaii, Puerto Rico.
If you're listening, podcast listeners, if you're on Podbean, you should jump on YouTube because I'm gonna make a note and put a picture of myself with the worst sunburn I've ever got right here in the video because it was a doozy. Okay, so the worst sunburn I've ever had. I went to what was it? It was a I've been to a few events to do video footage to do filming, but I think this one was like a motocross race, and it was kind of overcast, so I didn't think to put on any sunscreen or anything, and it was like the spring, so I'd gone all winter without sun, and I'm crazy white anyway, and so I was out there for hours, and I just got absolutely roasted, and it was so bad. It wasn't that event. It was a different event. I just remembered because it was last year when I was in Tri-Cities. But it was so bad that I actually stayed indoors for the next 2 days because my face had actually swollen and my whole nose was like it was blocking part of my eyes because it was all swelled up the bridge of my nose. It was brutal. And of course the peeling was like it was like a lizard coming out of its skin.
Yeah, I don't burn very often. 2 years ago, though, my sister got married in Costa Rica, and I basically never get burned in Canada. Like, I mean, I'm generally, even when I'm in the field, I'm wearing my combat, so I'm not, like, exposed to the sun that much and get burned, so I don't really think about it. But I rented a motorcycle and went out for, like, maybe like a 6-hour or so ride with, like, a tank top on in the Costa Rican sun, and let's just say I didn't think it through. I was a lobster by the time I got back. Kind of ruined the rest of my trip.
When I was in Scouts, I did Scouts, and we'd go on camping trips. The first trip I ever went on, I brought no sunblock, and I'm pale as hell. And it was a week-long trip, and I got burnt on the first day. And when I went to wash my face the next morning, it just burnt so bad, and it was hell. And so every trip after that, I would take tons of sunscreen and sometimes get what was it called? Have you seen that like white paste that sometimes people will put on their nose? It's got some sort of
the zinc oxide.
Yeah, zinc. I would use that occasionally, and then wear like a wide brimmed hat and long sleeves because it was just it was bad.
So I got a question for you, Mark. Have you ever been out on a really sunny day and like you accidentally touch your one leg with your prosthetic and burn yourself because the prosthetic's been too hot?
No, I generally wear like knee socks on my left foot and this like kind of McDavid like volleyball knee pad thing.
Okay.
And so, like, my left leg is very rarely bare. And also, I'm usually, I mean, especially, like, I haven't really had prosthetic out when it's been really hot very much. And not a lot of metal is really exposed. It's just kind of the top of the actual foot right below the socket. But for the most part, if anything touches, it'd be the socket touching, which is carbon that doesn't really retain that much heat.
Because I grew up in South Carolina, and there have been times where I've like hopped in the car without looking where the seatbelt is, and the exposed metal part of the seatbelt touches my bare skin, and I, just burn myself alive in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I'll be moving around a lot better this summer than I was last summer, so maybe it'll happen. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Chris, he lives in Canada. They don't have any hot days.
Oh yeah, we do. It gets boiling in Ontario during the summer.
How hot?
Again, I speak in Celsius, but like usually 33, 34. That's generally when it's like crazy hot. But like, I mean, I'd say on a normal day in like the summer, like 28 is probably where it is.
28.
So that
Look
is...
it up in Fahrenheit. I don't know how to translate that in my head.
I just heard the keyboard going.
93 degrees.
That's pretty hot.
That's decent.
Yeah, and Ontario is humid too. It's a lot nicer if you're in like BC. It's a little more of a dry heat.
We get 105 here in Moses Lake is usually the hot point.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
We get to like 120 here.
Yeah.
In the height of summer.
Wesley?
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's god awful.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Chicago gets pretty hot too, but it's the humidity that kills us here. It's a fucking swamp.
I would take dry heat over wet heat any day.
Humidity sucks.
Yeah, even in the cold, like dry cold is way better than any sort of wet cold.
Wesley, was that another double entendre?
Oh my lord.
What's your next question?
Okay, so this is the last one. And so I think this is probably like an outdated term. I'm not sure, but you hear it like in the movies and stuff. But you've heard of people talking about, oh, I got to first base, second base, what have you. What is that? Like, what are the levels they're talking about as in terms of how far they became intimate?
Right.
There's a lot of controversy about third base.
Yeah.
Generally, though, everyone agrees on home. Most people agree on first and second. Third, though, is it's a pretty big gray area.
So, Mark, what are your first and seconds?
I would say first is kissing, like tongue kiss, like a full-out romantic kiss, none of this peck on the cheek shit. Second is anything involving breasts. My rule for third is anything involving genitals at all, except for full-on sex, and obviously home is sex.
Okay, so things are evolving. Do you think we're going to need some new analogies? Because there's a lot more than sex.
Where does picking fit in this baseball?
Yeah, soon it's gonna, evolve from baseball and go to cricket, to where there's like 120 different rules.
Do you guys ever see?
It lasts 4 days long.
Clone High, they had the whole joke that was first and a half base, where it's under the shirt but over the bra.
Oh. Well, yeah.
What's a foul ball?
Ask Lozano.
Premature ejaculation. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. Premature ejaculation makes more sense.
What would be a strikeout?
If she tells you to get out.
That happens at the bar.
To leave the premises and go home.
Your Uber's here.
Oh my.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. What is cucking like pinch hitting?
That's getting a DH to come in.
I mean, this analogy can only go so far before it just gets convoluted.
The 7th inning stretch.
Sometimes you need those. Need to drink some water, maybe like Capri Sun or something, and rally and get back in there.
It's very important to hydrate.
If she's like a lot lizard, all the truckers are counting their RBIs and stuff. So a RBI would be like maybe like a wingman.
Think about what an RBI is in this context.
It's like a wingman that gets his buddy scores. His buddy scores because of him.
The grand slams when you get 3 of your homies' pussies.
Okay, Wesley.
Yes, sir.
One more segment. So we got to get through your. I want you to rate the Jews.
What? Okay. I, as a religious minority, declare that I have the power to decide 10 Jews. Okay, so as a religious minority myself, I am taking it upon myself to be in charge of ranking the top 10 Jews of all time. And this this includes CLC members and just really famous Jews.
Okay.
All right. So our honorable mention is Mark Zuckerjew. All right. So 10 is, I guess, an ex-member, but he's still part of the community. Is Eric Goldberg. Although I have Eric Goldjew written down, I usually do that. Whenever I see Berg, I write Jew. Number 9 is our boy KJ Snyder.
All right.
Number 8 is the gorgeous Natalie Portman. Are you guys a fan?
Yeah, everyone is.
Sure.
Okay, numbers. Let's see.
Wait, back to Natalie Portman here. Here. You mentioned earlier that the asses don't do it for you, Wes. See the movie Your Highness. She's in like an amazing thong, and it is just glorious. And
never mind that, man. Jump him right to Closer.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You gotta see an ass
For a little, chick, she's got an ass on her.
Yeah.
Is it called Your Highness or Your Heinies? Dun, 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 dun.
She can pull off a shaved head too. Not a lot of girls can do that.
In Before Tara.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, who's gonna make the Britney Spears joke?
Oh, what are we on? Number 7?
Yeah.
Number 8?
7 is our newest Jew member, our she-brew, if you will, Sarah Rooney. I know nothing about her, but she looks classic Jew. Like, that's...
So we're gonna get Sarah Rooney on the show one of these days for her one-hit wonder on YouTube. Apparently, she's got a lot of views for a terrible video she made about spiritual stuff or religion or something. I checked it out one day. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but boy, were people bashing her. It's like from her teenage years. So she's gonna make us famous and put us on the map.
I want to say she was critiquing a Lady Gaga song.
That's right. She said, "Don't listen to Lady Gaga because she's, I don't know, the devil."
She's the devil.
Something. I don't remember. Yeah.
And her nose will be making an appearance on the podcast as well.
I'm such a fan of going for that.
All right.
Number 6.
Number 6 is Gal Gadot.
Ah. All
I
right.
can't complain about that.
You're not. Are you guys fans?
She should be in the top 3.
Top 3.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see where he's going with his list. Don't lead him.
All right, yeah.
We all appreciate Wonder Woman, though.
I have heard so many pronunciations of her last name, from Godot to Godot. Nobody can agree.
I've heard it is pronounced Godot.
Yeah,
It's only
Gadot.
Oh, a mixture of the two.
Godot,
All right.
but like with the sound of the T at the end.
Huh.
I think
she's
it's
like real
Boggio.
Jew, like Israeli Jew.
Yeah. She's
kind of a Zionist fucking fascist pig.
All right.
That's the way I like my Jews.
So let's see. ZFB ILF.
All right. Next one is one of my favorites, Jerry Seinfeld. I love him.
I can't argue with that.
All right, and then let's see, we're on 4, and that's our boy Alex Insdorf. He doesn't look Jewish,
I was hoping he wasn't
but he
going to be
acts
on
it.
this list.
Alex beat Seinfeld. Man.
I bet Jerry can climb a pole.
Number 3 is one of my favorite character actors, Jeff Goldblum. And if you don't like Jeff Goldblum, you can go to hell, because he's fantastic.
Wow.
If you don't like Jeff Goldblum, you haven't seen The Fly, because he's awesome in The Fly.
Yeah, he is great.
So good.
Sometimes I'll just go on YouTube and listen to that song they made out of him laughing in Jurassic Park for 10 minutes.
Oh!
Was The Fly directed by David Cronenberg?
It was.
Okay, that's what I thought.
In school, I wrote a 5,000-word essay on David Cronenberg. It's a Canadian tradition for film students.
Are we
Boy,
ready?
this is the Lost Contest Coughcast.
Yes, it is. Are we ready for number 2?
Sure are.
All right. She's one of my favorite singers, and that is the lovely Amy Winehouse. Are you guys a fan?
I did not know she was.
Ooh, I didn't know she was Jewish.
It makes sense.
I mean,
The
have you
last
looked at
name
her?
Ends with a house.
Look at her.
The nose.
Uh,
That's all Wesley sees
I
is
didn't
the
grow
nose.
up around Jews.
I would have to pull out the calipers, Wes.
oh my hell.
We're at number 1?
Yeah, we're at number 1.
Number 1.
That is Jesus of Nazareth. He has to be number 1.
Aww.
I'll fight you on that one.
All right.
Yeah? Okay.
King of the Jews.
Go ahead and give your explanation, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Okay, so Jesus is the top, is number 1, just because of his influence culturally upon so much of humanity. Islam and Christianity recognize him as a figure in some sort, one way or another. The Muslims believe he's a prophet. Obviously, to Christians, he's the savior. And just, the influence that Christianity itself as a movement has changed the world. I think that's pretty significant.
Even the Mormons revere him.
Yes, absolutely.
Is Mormon like generally Christian religion?
Yes.
I actually don't know that much about it.
Yes, Mormonism, we use the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament, and things start to differ, when you get to talking about the Book of Mormon, which Joseph Smith, we believe, helped put together, so...
Yeah, Mormonism is like Christianity as a base, but then it's got this extracurricular stuff tacked on. Is that right, Wesley?
Yes.
Yeah, the DLC.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Chris, what's your rebuttal?
So what my rebuttal is, okay. I mean, yeah, Jesus was pretty great. But my number 1, and really I think should be number 1, if you're going to have a list of Jews, Adolf Hitler. He's technically a Jew. He's quarter Jew. And then, why are we even having this discussion right now? Because of what that man did. No, listen to me. Okay, so during that time, Germany in the 30s, Jews were just way undervalued. There were just so many of them. Laws of supply and demand. What he did was kind of, fix that instability there, and then he made it to where Jews were in such demand afterwards that we were shipping them over here as fast as we could get them.
Also, the ones who survived had to be the cream of the crop, so it was kind of
exactly. The herd mentality.
Selection.
See, now I even feel like an asshole for suggesting, why didn't we say Albert Einstein for the number?
No one would know who Einstein was without Hitler.
I was looking at a list of Jewish celebrities, and it's mind-boggling how many of those sons of are Jews. I mean, and they don't even look it. They don't even look Jewish. Where's your nose? Good hell.
That is the weird thing about American actors.
What did you say?
Well, that's the thing about American entertainers is anymore they're either Jews or Canadian.
That's true.
So Wesley, I think our podcast is going to tank if you don't at least put Larry David on the honorable mentions
Yeah, I was
list.
going to say,
I got
Seinfeld
Seinfeld
was
on there.
but not Larry David.
I know, but they're two different. They're yeah.
Seinfeld would be nobody without Larry David.
I almost think that after seeing what he's done with Curb Your Enthusiasm without Seinfeld, I'd argue it's possible Larry David's the better one.
Is that a good show? I've never watched it because it's but
it's amazing.
That's why you didn't say Larry David.
Is it similar to Seinfeld?
It is in tone, but not in style.
Okay.
It's still kind of a show about nothing and shitty coincidences happening to people that all kind of come together at the end of an episode, but it's much more improvised, I guess is the best way to put it. They just kind of talk. I don't think they scripted. They just kind of know what's going to happen at the end of the scene and they get there eventually. But in that sense, it feels more natural than Seinfeld.
I would kind of call Curb Your Enthusiasm the American, not a spin-off, but the American version of Fawlty Towers.
Yeah, I could see that.
But rated R.
And it's really like the opposite of Seinfeld, where like Seinfeld was always like kind of a more classical hero. Like Larry David is the anti-hero by far
He's
because
George.
he always just ruins everybody's lives.
Yeah, George was always in Seinfeld though. So like I mean, it's Seinfeld but focused on the George character.
Okay. Well, that sounds pretty good. So definitely honorable mention goes to Larry David and the chick from Inglourious Bastards, Melanie Laurent.
She's Jewish in real life?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Look at her nose!
No, I was looking up famous Jews last night.
Oh yeah, she's gorgeous, Melanie.
As
Laurent.
you do.
She's beautiful.
As I do, yes.
I just thought she was French. I didn't think she was actually a Jewish actress.
Yes, they're.
Wesley occupies his time with creating lists of Jews and then also creating lists of places in Chicago he would like to never go.
Oh.
Oh,
But,
man.
yeah, the funny thing is, Judaism and Mormonism are very similar. They're both.
They're one of your 3 books.
The Torah is basically the Old Testament, just like most of the Quran is quite comparable to the Old Testament. Those Abrahamic faiths. But Judaism is so different because historically they've been oppressed, and because of that they've stuck to their traditions and kind of stayed together in more reclusive communities. And Mormons kind of do the same thing, and we also have a history of persecution. The governor of Missouri signed an extermination order, and that led to the killing of the founder of Mormonism. So there is
You guys
kind
got
of a
run out of Illinois too, didn't you?
yes, Missouri, Illinois. They just kept moving west, and then finally they're like, oh, well, we'll go to a shithole, a frozen desert in the mountains, and that's why they settled Utah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wesley, has your wife ever, or fiance ever listened to the podcast?
She listened to part of one, but as with most CLC stuff, she kind of looks at me disapprovingly. She just kind of shakes her head.
Would you say it's more the racism or the anti-Semitism that tips it over?
Well, the thing is, I mean, we've been very close for several years. She knows that about me. But it's more the risque humor and jocularity, which I think is perfectly fine because it's just jokes. It's not anything serious, and it's different. Excuse me. CLC is a different cultural environment for me, and I've really enjoyed it because of that.
Ingot, do you have a topic for us?
Actually, I was curious. I know this is probably common knowledge to a few of you guys, but I don't know what most of you guys do for a living, and I'm curious to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what you do for a living, first of all.
I bartend currently, but I've been working in restaurants most of my life, but mostly for the last 10 years I've been cooking, bartending, managing.
Okay.
Pretty much all of it.
What kind of restaurant?
All kinds, dude. Right now I'm working at an Italian wine bar that has like a fast casual food vibe, almost like Italian tapas.
Sorry, guys, I cut out again.
Brian?
So, can you hear me?
His mic cut off, but he said gay porn.
So can you just do a quick recap of? I heard you worked at an Italian bar or something like that.
Oh, so I was telling everybody I work at an Italian wine bar in downtown Chicago, but I've been working in all sorts of different restaurants and bars since I was about 20. And then
Okay.
you were up next. So what do you do for a living?
I was at a hotel, and I was a night auditor for 3 years. And I really enjoyed it because I could go all night long without a lot of business, and I would I'd research things, I'd learn about things, and I would keep my mind occupied to try and stay awake. And then around the time when my wife left, I actually learned that our manager was quitting, and our front desk manager was. Oh no, so the front desk manager was leaving, the general manager was staying. So I asked, being there 3 years, if I could have his position if it was open, and they promoted me. And then I did that for about 9 months, and then my general manager left, and he liked my performance so far, so he's like, I'm putting your name in to take my place. So then I became general manager. So I was there for a year as a general manager at the hotel.
And then it burnt down.
And then no, it didn't burn down. So the CEO of the company had started his own microbrewery called 10 Pin, and I have one of their beers I'm going to send to KJ here pretty soon once I get some money to do shipping. But I had he really wanted to promote the brewery, and I during my time at the hotel was kind of a black sheep of the family because the family owned a bowling alley, a restaurant, a hotel, the brewery, and another restaurant. And so it was like a cluster of these places all in one spot in my hometown. So the hotel was like right next door to the brewery and the bowling alley. And it was a casino, was another one. And so the family never agreed. They'd had a history of argument, so they hired the CEO to kind of manage everything to keep the peace. And he still disregarded the hotel. It was a very second thought. It was just barely paying its own bills. And I told him, we've got new hotels coming in. We've got to upgrade our furniture. We've got to upgrade our rooms. And he wouldn't go for it. He's like, you got to make money before you can spend money. And I was like, but we're not going to make money because no one wants to stay in a shitty hotel.
He actually said that? Like the opposite of the saying?
Yeah, he said, you're going to have to make money before we invest in this hotel. And so wow. I disagreed with him, and we kind of butted heads there. And he finally, I made a video. When I was a night auditor, I'd studied to do video work, and I've been doing it since I was a teenager as a hobby. But I really started studying to get into the industry, and so I bought some equipment, and I decided I've got this. I may as well do it for the hotel to promote us. So I made a video, and he really liked it when he saw it online. So he's like, come over, and I want you to do...
Can we see that video?
It's pretty bad. I look back at it now, and it was not my best work. I could post it in the video for the... I'll make a note, podcast. Hotel video. So he's like, come over and do our marketing work for our brewery that we're getting started. Let's see. I got an echo somewhere.
It's
Oh, it's me. My headset died. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Let me just turn down my volume. Go on.
Okay. So we started getting plans where, and he had this guy from Oregon that he was going to bring in. He talked to some people in New York, a marketing agency, and they said, you got to lose the bowling alley. Bowling alleys are not cool. You're trying to promote brewery and craft beers to the cool kids. You got to lose the bowling alley thing because it's geeky and it's nerdy. He didn't like that because the family's had a history of bowling. And so he went to Portland and got a new company and was like, come in and market for us. And they said, all right. I think they learned that the other company said bowling was nerdy because they're like, let's keep the bowling. This is your history. So we're going to stick with the bowling thing. So they named the brewery 10 Pin. They started getting these designs set up for the beers. And he brought me in and he said, I love your creativity. I love your passion. Let's get you out of the hotel and you can be my marketer for the 10 Pin and the casino and everything. I said, okay.
Wow.
I went to a meeting with this guy. Well, I thought so. So he said passion and creativity. So my understanding going in was that I was going to help him with the marketing. I was going to have a say in this thing and we're going to just kind of develop it together. I went to the meeting. The head of the marketing team was there. My CEO was there. They opened up a pamphlet for me, and it had the 10 Pin beers on there. And the first thing I saw was a red and white beer that had a kind of an X on it, like a strike in bowling, and it looked so, and it had this cursive writing. It looked so much like a Budweiser, like you wouldn't believe. Like it looked like a Budweiser promo of an X-Men movie. And as soon as I opened it, my heart sank, because I actually genuinely liked the craft beer. I was really into it, and I thought they produced good stuff, and I was excited. And I was passionate at the time, kind of an elitist for brewery, because I was really at the height of my craft beer tasting and stuff. So I was against the big three. I didn't like Budweiser. I didn't like Coors. So I was really trying to promote this hometown stuff, and I opened it, and I just saw nothing but Budweiser, and my heart dropped. And so they were like, this is kind of what we're looking at right now. Here's the bottle design, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, so what do you think? And I should point out, just to have a fair picture of what happened next, I was a little harsh with my words, not very tactful. I said, this first design is horrid and I wouldn't touch it with a stick. But I like this next one. And immediately the CEO who I had butt heads with, and he was very kind of set in his ways, he was like, you're not here to make a decision. You're here to just do what we tell you or whatever. I don't know exact words, but then he got a phone call, he stepped away, and the guy that was running the marketing agency was like, I'd fire you right now. I was like, holy shit. He was like, I can see right now that you're just going to be argumentative and cause problems for us. And I was like, I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood. I thought you were calling me here to ask for my opinion, and I didn't know that these were set in stone and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, these are the designs we're going with, and obviously you don't like them. I don't think you're the man for the job. So the CEO...
Oh, man, that sucks.
The CEO got off his phone. It was bad. I was just like completely flabbergasted, because I definitely went into this meeting with the wrong mentality. The CEO came back after he got off his phone, and they went to another meeting, and they just let me go. And I didn't hear from him for a week. He called me back in the next Sunday, and he's basically told me that I lost my job, and they were getting someone else to replace me at the hotel, and I was done. And I was just like, I was kind of relieved, because the whole week I thought, I can't work with this guy. He does not accept critique. He's so sensitive about his opinion, and I can't tell him anything. And I'm a guy that if I see a problem, I need to at least address it and be heard. And then if you dismiss me, that's fine, but I just want to at least have a voice in this thing, you know? Yeah. And, man. So it was kind of a mutual parting. I was kind of happy to go, because I don't think I would have liked the job, but he definitely let me go. He definitely fired me.
Oh, man.
So
you're currently unemployed then?
So long story short, you film media for people, commercials and stuff.
I know that was a long story, but I thought it was kind of interesting because, yeah, I'd already done some commercials. I decided to get into video, and I've expanded my video equipment, and now I do events, and I do social media commercials, and I have a lot of fun with it. I just kind of barely pay my bills, but I have a blast.
Yeah, that's dope that you have fun
You're
doing
essentially a
what you
freelance
really
artist then.
For the most part.
That's my story in reverse. not exactly, like not nothing to do with marketing, but I did do freelance video work before I became Reg Force military.
And so at what point did you work for a bowling alley?
At no point I worked for a bowling alley. However, my best friend and his girlfriend at the time did work for a bar bowling alley in downtown Toronto called the Ballroom, so I knew those were a thing. So when they said that bowling alleys and bars don't mix, I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I know of at least one. But yeah, no. When I graduated university, I have a degree in film, like I said, from York, and I was mostly doing freelance video work for bands in Toronto. Like there's a couple bands that I was filming that actually like got signed and like got at least decently big in Canada. I don't know if they're big in the States, but the thing is, though, every time the 2 times it happened that I had a band that got signed, they had to start using union camera people and stuff to do their video work, and I was never in the union, so they'd be like, oh no, like we got to use like the labels guys, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And for a while I started working for an indie label, and that was going okay because I was getting like pretty regular contracts from their bands. But once like, say there's like 14 artists on a label, once they all have like a concert film made, like what do they really need me for? So I just kind of got tired of like living contract to contract. So when I was like 27 or so, I was kind of thinking, I might want to kind of do something else in my life. But I was in the Army Reserve since I was like 17. So I kind of just decided to switch to Reg Force military after doing a first aid qualification, because we have to do in the military, even if you're a reservist, you got to do first aid every 3 years. So I had to requalify with first aid, and my commanding officer was just like, hey, you're pretty good at this medical stuff. Maybe you should be a medic. And I did a bit of research, and like 6 years later, yeah, I'm a career Army medic. Did not know I was going to become a cyborg, though. That was kind of a surprise. Although before I left to do the military, I did make a feature-length action movie that is on YouTube and has about 14,000 views.
Wow.
It's called Fear the Reaper. You can look it up on IMDb. I think it has like a 6 out of 10 rating, so if you guys want to throw some 10s at it, feel free. Maybe I can bump myself up to a 7.
Can I ask you some quick questions about that?
Yeah, sure.
So, this is how long is it for one thing?
100 minutes, so like just over an hour and a half.
And where did you get funding for this?
Working at video game stores, working in the military, and some of the equipment and stuff was purchased by my parents. They invested in me.
Pretty out of pocket?
Yeah. There was no like studio behind it or anything. It's as indie as you can get.
Okay. Is it pretty run and gun, or did you actually like plan it out, come up with a script, get some actors, do it all? Like, was it all how did it match the industry versus just homemade? Sort of a mix of the two, I guess, because like we did write the script initially, like as kind of like more like I guess a rough outline, because a lot of the dialogue I was kind of just writing as I went along, mostly because I was going to write the entire script as I'd like initially started like the first half hour, because we were shooting it in sequence. But then I realized that not only do a lot of the people who I have acting in the movie, because like for major roles I would actually like have auditions and bring in some actors from like around Toronto, but a lot of the smaller roles were just like my friends. And they were so bad at staying on the page, like staying on script, that I was like, man, like I don't want to like get too attached to like things that I'm writing. And then the other thing was stuff would happen in the production, like people would leave, people would move out of town. One of the things actually, there was this one character who's like this like weed dealer, like gangster guy in it that was in this band called Down with Webster. He was like this rapper in the band Bucky, and he was one of the bands that got signed. So we actually filmed 2 scenes of him playing that part, and then he got like too famous to be in the movie, which I was like, oh, shit. Excuse me, now I'm coughing. But yeah, so I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, because like now I have like a semi-celebrity in the movie, and like now he's too famous, so I got to recast him with someone else. But so what we started doing, the way I had it set up was like, I thought of it as like issues of a comic. So it was divided into like 7 issues, and then the feature length is like the trade paperback, right? Like the graphic novel. So I would just like basically take as much as I can to like shoot and edit each one at a time. And then in like the 3rd year that we were making it, because we can only shoot it in summer, because once the snow comes down in Canada, that's it for continuity. And like I'm shooting around other people's schedules, but we started just kind of shooting the whole rest of it, and then I was like, I was going to release this in like shorts online, but I think like the whole story works kind of better as a feature-length movie. And I cut it together, and then spent about a year like doing all the sound effects and music and like editing it up and adding in some like extra CGI blood and stuff like that. And I think it's a pretty good movie. Like, I mean, it's definitely like very guerrilla, but I think it's watchable, and the story's pretty decent. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free. For sure, and I'll try and find it and put a link in. Quick question about, for us gear nerds, what kind of gear did you use? What was anything high-end?
I was lucky enough to have been shooting the movie just before the HD era hit, so I was using a Panasonic DVX 100B. That shoots in 24p, so it kind of has like the same frame rate as film and looks a little more cinematic than like shooting on like a Handycam would. but it is only about DVD quality. So like if you watch a DVD of the movie on like a normal TV, it looks fine. But if you're comparing it to like what a Blu-ray should look like, it's very much not a 1080p movie. It's like I guess 480p, but like I think I stretched it out to 720 though to make it like widescreen. But it's grainy, but if anything, the graininess kind of helps some of the visual effects and stuff look a bit more real. But yeah, and as far as lights, we just had these like LED powered battery lights because most of the places we were shooting we couldn't access power, especially the outdoor shots. And blood effects are, for the most part, Knox gelatin, corn syrup, and red food coloring that I would often have to make myself on set very quickly.
Can I ask you a couple questions, just typical generic questions about your leg?
Yeah, sure.
How did you lose it?
I have had a fairly long military career of many ankle sprains, and while I'd like to say that I was in Afghanistan and had it blown off by an IED while I was saving a village of like tiny children, and I don't have a good story like that. It's just I got ligament reconstruction surgery, and something happened during either the surgery or my recovery that's still kind of up in the air. And I didn't heal so well from it. So about 5 days after that surgery, they brought me in to try to like repair it and basically save my foot. His second surgery, I woke up with my hands tied to an ICU chair with a intubation tube down my throat, and it looked like my leg had gotten attacked by a shark. So that's probably the scariest moment of my life. And like 4 days after that, basically, it got to the point that they figured they couldn't save it. I eventually just asked this orthopedic surgery resident, like this maybe like 27-year-old girl or something like that was like kind of taking care of me. I just had a feeling she would kind of give me the straight story. I'm like, look, I'm an Army medic. I get like bedside manner means you can't always give it to people straight, but like if everything goes perfectly here, how much of my foot we looking at saving at this point? And she's like, well, I've heard like my superiors talking, and they said like probably 30% and definitely no toes. And so I'm just like, yeah, just cut the leg off.
Wow.
And that's actually kind of how it happened. And then 3 days after that, I actually got the amputation. And actually that kind of comes into how like I guess sort of got into like the CLS group and stuff, because the night that I got my amputation, I was listening to one of the last Game Over Greggy shows that Colin did. It was the one that was just Colin talking to that guy from MIT, and they started talking about Hugh Hare, who like makes like actual legit like powered robot legs. And I'm listening to that as I'm like coming off anesthesia from like having my leg cut off, and I was just like, holy hell. I was like, what are the odds I'm listening to this right now today? Yeah, so I think that made it so that I will be on Colin's Patreon for life. Yeah, it was February. It's almost been a year. In fact, my initial surgery would have been, it's a year, 3 days from now.
Do you have much memory of going through shock or anything like that?
Well, shock is an interesting thing, because like a lot of people think of shock as like you're talking about more like trauma, right? Like stress.
Well, I know you didn't get it blown off or anything, but you said you woke up in the chair tied down and stuff.
Yeah, and that was pretty messed up. But like shock in the actual medical sense is a lack of blood pressure or blood flow.
Okay.
So it's like I think a lot of people just get it wrong. So like if your blood pressure is tanking, then like your body's going into what's usually hypovolemic shock, which means like you don't have as much volume. But if you're saying that like did the experience leave any lasting like psychological scars on me, I think no, like is sort of the easy answer, which sounds weird because like it was pretty messed up, but I've just kind of always been wired that way, and it's sort of one of the reasons I got into military medicine. Also, like I worked as a paramedic during my training so like I have 900 hours on the road civvy side EMS, and I saw a pretty stupid amount of dead people. My first call actually was a car roll. Not my first call ever. My first car accident call, like motor vehicle collision. was a single car rollover where the first thing I saw, before I even really saw the car, was an arm just in the road. And then immediately like saw that this lady had like I think she probably actually died before she even crashed, but she probably had like a diabetic seizure or something like that because she was a larger woman. And I knew she was dead the second I saw her, but like I immediately kind of like ran over to her and like threw the pads on her and started doing CPR. And my instructor was just like, hey, like, I mean, are you okay? It was like, that was a pretty messed up one. I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, but you jumped right on there and did your job, even though like you probably knew that wasn't going to help anything. I was like, yeah, but I mean, like there were people standing outside the restaurant they could see, so I knew that we had to do it. He was just like, well, as long as you're okay, that's fine. So I don't know, I'm kind of wired to not really react, and just kind of do what I need to do.
Is that compartmentalization?
Yeah, I guess sort of. So, like, I mean, yeah, it's a little more messed up when it's specifically happening to you, but at the end of the day, like, I was just like, okay, well, let's try to get through this whole thing.
And you told him to do it, right? So at least there was that expectation anyway.
Yeah, and actually, I probably would have told him to do it earlier had I known what I'd find out, like, later that day, because basically when they found out that I was going to have the amputation, the military called around and got a couple injured vets and stuff to call me and basically tell me like what I was going to be expecting. And one of the guys was an engineer officer. I think he was like a major or something. I know his name, but I'm not going to say his name here. And he basically told me, he's like, if you still want to like go overseas and stuff and fight, he's like, you can. You just got to be able to pass the fitness test. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm going to get an amputation. He's like, dude, I went on 2 tours after I got my leg cut off. He's like, one of them was Afghanistan, and the other one was a DART mission in the Philippines, or maybe it was Haiti. But he was like, so like, yeah, there's nothing stopping you as long as you can still do your job. So that made me feel a lot better because I'm like, oh, okay. Because I kind of, like, once I made the decision, okay, I'm getting an amputation, I figured, yeah, I'm never going overseas. Like, and all my deployments have been domestic. Like, I've just gone to, like, up north, like, kind of the subarctic areas of Ontario, working with, like, the native communities, which is very cold. Kind of cool, though. You get to do a lot of neat net fishing and hunting and stuff, but it's not exactly fighting a war as far as having stories to tell the grandkids.
I got a question about the paramedic stuff. Like, do you get to keep the road arms that you find?
No. I left the road arm for the coroner. I would not have wanted to interact with that any more than I had to.
Did your doctors ever address why you woke up during surgery?
It wasn't during surgery. That was after the surgery. Like I was intubated because
okay. I thought you meant like you looked down and they were operating on your leg.
No. Like I could send you a picture of what my leg looked like there. It looked like it had been torn open by a shark. I got what was called a fasciotomy. So the fascia is like the skin that encases your muscle. So fasciotomy is like that's getting ripped open because they were trying to get oxygen to the tissue in there. And so basically just my calves on both sides of my fibula and tibula were like torn open. So like it really looked like a shark had just like bitten into my leg and that it was just there. It was all open to, I wasn't like actively bleeding, like they were packed, but like all the dressing was bled through. So it was just like bright red. And yeah. I was in a lot of pain at the time too.
It was pretty bad.
Actually, I woke up during surgery on my leg. I had melanoma, and I had surgery on it, and I had some sort of reaction to the anesthetic. I actually woke up during surgery, and apparently freaked out. I don't remember anything, but I freaked out and kicked the doctor in the face.
Ooh.
You're like that drunk girl that Mark had to deal with.
I had to convince him to do the surgery again with a different anesthesiologist, and he was not happy about being kicked in the face.
I want to jump to Wesley, unless you guys have more questions for Mark. Anybody there?
By all means.
Okay. I want to jump to Wesley because, Wesley, you told Megan recently that you are becoming a teacher?
Yes, so...
Not if they hear this.
So you're going to teach them about Jews, are you?
Yes, Jews and all sorts.
How do I identify a hook nose from 100 yards away?
So, yeah,
I want to talk about biometrics.
So I went to university. I got a degree in history and took some classes to be a teacher on top of that. However, I still need to do my student teaching training, which was interrupted. A family member got really ill in the past year, although he'd been ill quite a long time, but things got worse, so I had to come back to St. George and look after him. But to support myself, my mother, she owns a large cattle ranch, and so I'd kind of grown up around that, and I'm familiar with how it works. So I started a small herd of my own, and that's kind of what has supported me. And I like to continue that as a side endeavor because it's fairly simple income.
And cue the Wesley cowboy memes.
Oh God!
Yes.
Do you ever have to run off some rustlers?
No.
Cowboy West.
But I don't ride horses or anything like that. ATVs are much more useful. So yeah, I'm fond of that, and I'm most likely going to be continuing with my student teaching next semester after I get back into that. So, yeah.
What do you know? What you'd like to teach as far as like the grades, age of kids?
High school social sciences.
Yeah.
So
I could totally see that, Mr. Sullivan.
I'm incredibly geeky with stuff like history and sociology, stuff like that. I don't let it come out much in the, but that's definitely huge interest. They are huge interests of mine. And my fiance is she has a degree to be a teacher as well, and she's doing her student teaching.
Do you two live together, or not until marriage?
Not until marriage. So.
That's when he gets his magic underwear. Bum, ba, da, boom.
Yes, the superpower clothes. What's that?
I said that's when your real sex education starts.
Yes.
Have like a set of Bluetooth headphones on him and the Discord open like that episode of Dark Knight or Black Mirror.
that.
Live crib notes.
Okay, now what do I do, Tony?
Now you open the bag and get out the GIMP mask.
Oh my hell.
Wesley, she's gonna kill you. Run, run.
But up until then, folks, tune in every week to hear Wesley's questions segment.
Wesley. Oh, Wesley.
I can't wait till that era of going deeper. It's gonna get real.
Oh, after I'm married? Oh.
Just the thing that spurred it, the thing that first inspired this segment is he was in the admin chat and he was like,
oh God. Here it comes.
He was like, who was the first person that thought of doing cunnilingus?
Also at like 4 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And I thought, that's a good question.
Well, it had to come around like after the era of like kind of regular bathing had happened.
Yeah, for real.
Did it?
Oh God, I can only imagine.
They've got these like pictures and drawings and paintings and stuff from old Chinese days where they're doing it, and I just think, come on, guys. I know y'all weren't bathing back then.
Well, the royalty might have.
Maybe.
It actually depends on the culture. I think like in the Middle East, they've been doing like some sort of oil bathing thing for like over 1,000 years. Europeans were fucking gross though.
And still are.
Well, it's a cultural divide because, and this started with the spread of Islam. hygiene became huge in that area because that is a tenet, of their faith. Keep yourself clean. There are various rules like that.
Well, my friends have some war stories about Afghanistan. That might
Oh, really? Well, those are hill people. Like the what's the characters in Star Wars?
Okay, let's not make comparisons to.
I've said some pretty heinous shit.
I know. I mean, really, to draw the line there, that would be racist. Is to not go there after we've been
the Tusken Raiders.
I'm sensitive about Star Wars these days, guys. Okay, it's a nerve. It's a nerve that's still fresh.
These blast points are too accurate for sand people.
Guys, how do the Tusken Raiders communicate with each other? The only thing... That's all I've ever heard. So is that what they do?
I'm not sure that's a language. Maybe they're like dolphins. Like there's pitches that convey different emotions, and that's how they deal with it. Because yeah, you're right. It doesn't sound like they're making words.
Is that what they do in bed?
Yeah, you're right though. Chewbacca's kind of a similar deal. He doesn't really make anything that makes any sense, but Rey can understand him because that makes sense.
Yeah, they just speak in 1990s modem.
Oh man, Brody, what do you do for a job?
Well, I used to be in like retail. I graduated high school and then I started working at a print shop nearby, and ended up getting a job as a pool boy after that. So I was cleaning swimming pools. And one summer, I really only did it for like a year, but the summertime I was driving my brother's 97 Dodge. It was a black truck, no AC. So what I would do is after I would clean a swimming pool, I would like jump in, get wet, and then roll the windows down and drive fast on the highway. It was fun.
If any of you want to know the answer to this question, you can go listen to episode 0. Yes, he did see lots of boobs.
Brody, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Word.
Yeah. But after that, I moved out here to San Marcos and tried to go back to school for computer science, which was a mistake because I just couldn't stand like being in those classes and have just the thought of like being in front of a computer as a job for the rest of my life. No matter what it was doing, I just hated it. So I ended up just kind of quitting school and working full time at Best Buy, and I was really good there. I did mobile phone activation and everything, and got a pretty good reputation, won some awards, went on a few trips, and then somebody from a really big home builder came in. They were a sales rep, and we just hit it off, and they got me an interview here. So for the past 6 months, I've been a fully commissioned on-site sales agent in the new home community, just designing new houses and selling them to people. And that's been really cool. Like this is my career, and I'm just super thankful for it.
Cool.
But it was kind of a process to get here. I know 2 years ago I was really down and depressed and didn't know. I wasn't playing music full time like I am now, and I was just working retail. $10 an hour, just kind of clocking in and going home. And now I feel like I'm really helping people make important decisions in their lives, and I'm just kind of guiding them on a path. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I love my job. That's why I haven't been as active in CLC or even been able to come on the podcast as much as how demanding it's. What's up?
You cut out for a little bit, but I think I heard you say you're in the band and you guys are talking about making a concept album.
Yeah. So we're called Wastelanders, and my favorite post-apocalyptic, like fictional stuff has always been Mad Max, The Last of Us, The Walking Dead. I've loved the Terminator, Horizon Zero Dawn, The Matrix, anything involving like the end of the world, the end of humanity, something like that. So I've always wanted to make like a big kind of Tolkien, like Game of Thrones type of world, but I don't know if I have the talent to write a novel or like even draw anything. So I just thought, hey, why don't I tell a story and the art form that I am just most comfortable with. So it's a 12-song concept album about a guy that's living in a wasteland, and his daughter comes down with a pretty bad sickness, as well as a bunch of other people's village. He decides, he sets out and he tries to find a cure for them, and ends up striking a deal with this overlord that kind of backstabs him a bit and betrays him. And the rest of the album is him kind of getting revenge and fulfilling it. And I mean, I've always liked concept albums, and I was pretty amazed that they could come up with it. But actually kind of sitting down and making one on your own, and having guys like I do to collaborate with, it's been really exciting. I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
It's funny because you sent me.
I'm kind of excited about it now.
Yeah.
No, I can send y'all a clip of like an instrumental clip of the test mix.
Oh, God. I think if it's a concept album, wait till it's done. No, I'm serious. Don't show it to anybody, because if the whole thing tells the story, you don't want to release that out in singles.
Yeah, I mean it's been really hard to come up with the marketing strategy, because it's like, okay, this song sonically sounds like a single, like it's a banger. It hits all the points. It's not too long, but then there's so much lore and like stuff that you have to really kind of start at the beginning to understand. It's kind of like a Coheed and Cambria record, where like this one just builds and builds and builds. And that's my vision for Wastelanders, is I want to create a big wasteland world with heavy metal albums.
You up for an idea?
Yeah.
Why don't you get a comic book artist, or like just like a really good artist that can draw like comic book style art, to like basically illustrate along to the entire thing, and then make it as like a YouTube video along to the songs? Because that would be like shooting a film for it, but like it's like entirely, the entire soundtrack for it would be your music, and you don't have to worry about budget if it's someone drawing it. Like, I mean, you might have to pay the guy. Like, I'm not saying get someone to do it for free, because like, especially if you're talking about 12 songs worth of like, let's say in the ballpark of like 20 drawings per each thing, as long as you have them, like if you don't mind them being black and white and like even sketched in like pen, maybe a bit of ink, or like pencil and a bit of ink, not like full color crazy shit, and not like a bunch of motion graphics on it or anything, just like keep it simple, because then you can always expand it. And like if you start doing well with it, you can be like, oh, okay, like now let's add color, now let's get some After Effects going in there and make it more like a thing. Before you know it, you could have a full-on animated movie of it.
That's the dream, man. I mean, it sucks because I really don't have much of a talent for drawing. Like, I've tried, but
that's actually why I ended up making
a movie of my comic book idea.
Yeah, I mean, if I could find the right guy, and money's not going to really be a problem, because I have a pretty good job. So does a couple other guys in the band. Like, we really go all in and have a cohesive vision together. And we've talked about this before. Like, we want a comic. We want, I want to make a fucking tabletop game. I want to make I want Wastelanders to be more than just a band. I want it to be a franchise. And, that's just kind of like the looking to the stars mentality that I have. But, yeah, man, that'd be so sick to have a manga style YouTube video.
Yeah, I think it's doable too. Like, all you really need is an artist that's got the time to do it, and if you're paying him, then like, trust me. Like, I mean, I don't know like what city you're in, but in Toronto, there's a lot of artists that could use some money.
Yeah, I just need to dig in and find it. I think right now my mental finishing the actual sonic, like the audio product.
Yeah, you gotta lay the groundwork first. The drawings aren't going to matter if the album isn't what you want it to be.
Yeah, it just sucks because, like, there's no, artists in Southeast Texas or anything.
I mean, there's some of them. A lot of them just really come here to party. It's not UT. It's not A&M. It's not, these big kind of schools that everyone knows about nationwide. This is Texas State. This is like, I didn't get into A&M. This is, So I think once I move out, which I'm planning on doing, I'm going back to San Antonio. That's pretty much where my network is, and I have a lot of plugins in Austin. So I just got to start hitting those networks more when the time comes.
Yeah, I hear you. That sounds really
Is
cool
this-
though. Like some of my favorite stuff to listen to is concept albums. Like Rush has a few of them. Freaking The Who had 2 really good ones. My favorite one, I'm huge into Coheed and Cambria, and I've listened to them to no end. So I think Second Stage Turbine Blade is probably my favorite of theirs. But I like most of their stuff. Yeah.
I think my favorite concept album is Queensryche Operation Mindcrime.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, dude. I remember I was like 10, 11 years old, and my dad had like the VHS of the concert performance of that album. I was exposed to heavy metal music at a very, very young age, so it's kind of always been at the core of my soul, even though I don't necessarily like look like a metal guy, you know. But yeah, man, Queensryche Operation Mindcrime was my shit.
My personal favorite concept album is Son of the Morning by O Sleeper.
Yeah, that's a really good band. You like a lot of metal stuff, huh, Brian?
Yeah, a lot of. I'm really into hardcore, but I dabble in metal a little bit too.
Yeah, I think you'd really like. Well, I actually sent you a track to your email.
I was gonna ask you, was that one from the concept album?
Yeah, that was a quick mix. I have a newer version of it now that sounds a lot better. But yeah, that's track 2. That's kind of like the first part of the story. That's probably what we're gonna release as the single.
Yeah, I listened to it a number of times and then I forgot to give you my thoughts. But I liked it for sure. I liked it. So,
what sort of style of metal would you call it?
It's very much like it's definitely hardcore, like kind of Backtrack, Terror, Trapped Under Ice, but it's influenced by metal, like classic metal bands like Metallica, Slayer. There's some Gojira and Meshuggah influences in there.
Okay.
It's
I used to.
pretty-
I don't know,
it's
I
pretty-
still listen to metal occasionally, but mostly like death metal, melodic death metal.
Oh yeah, I love freaking At the Gates and Darkest Hour. And all
Fuck
this-
yeah, Darkest Hour is probably my favorite metal band.
Yeah, do you like At the Gates?
Yeah, I love At the Gates.
Yeah, that's probably the
At
holy
the
grail.
Gates, As I Lay Dying, All Shall Perish, all that shit.
Do you like Gojira?
I do. I'm not super familiar with them. They remind me of Mastodon a little bit.
They're a lot better than Mastodon because I saw them live with Mastodon and they destroyed them and they played before Mastodon.
Oh shit, because Mastodon's great.
Yeah, Gojira's the tightest sounding band I've ever seen. Like, used to go to a couple shows a week and I saw them at a time where I was going to a lot of shows and like it kind of ruined all the other shows I was going to be honest.
What's a band that you've been really surprised, like what you saw live and had never really been familiar with, but just blew you away?
That's a good question.
I've got a couple of those.
For me, it's
I'll have to
Born of
think.
Osiris. I actually saw them open for Darkest Hour one time, and I was like vaguely aware of them, but man, the way they got that crowd going was insane.
They've always had such a good energy. I've seen them a few times, man. I saw them. They've changed their guitar players so much. Do you know who Tosin Abasi is from Animals as Leaders?
The name sounds familiar.
Well, he's never been in Born of Osiris, but he actually like filled in on a tour, and my buddy had told me about this guitar player like the day before, and I was like, oh, he's cool. And then I go to the Born of Osiris show and I see the guy playing with him. I'm like, wait, what is this guy doing here? But no, they're fucking great. As far as a band that surprised me, I went to a show actually to see O Sleeper, Brian, and Emery was the headliner. And
Oh, yeah.
I've never really been into Emery, but I decided to stick around, and I ended up staying for the whole thing and buying one of their shirts. I really liked it. I haven't listened to them a whole lot, but you know, it was kind of like one of those things I wasn't expecting to be entertained, and it ended up being a really nice time.
I went to that same tour, and I really liked Emery to begin with, so that was a good tour for me.
Yeah.
I went to see Norma Jean in I forget the other band names, but anyway, a band that opened for him was Children 18-3, and I'd never heard of them. They've got a lot of punk influence in them, and they have a lot of fun on stage. I was pretty impressed by them. They're just a 3-piece band, but they're just really energy. I went to the Chariot. The Chariot's crazy, but I already knew that what I was getting into going in.
There's like throwing his bass into the crowd at this point. It's just gnarly.
Sorry, you cut out. That's the Chariot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I miss them. They disbanded recently, but they were wild. They do a lot of hanging from the ceiling and jumping into the crowd and throwing their instruments around and trashing their. They're a lot like the Who.
Not that good either. That's just a wild show.
It's wild, yeah.
I feel like that's the case with a few punk bands at hardcore.
Yeah.
I think my mom saw G.G. Allen in the 80s and it's like he was throwing shit off of the stage and just pissing on himself, and it was nuts.
Jesus. Like an old Alice Cooper show would have been fun.
Yeah. Their props and stuff. Chris, I left you last because we've talked about your trucking a lot, because that's kind of my fallback go-to topic whenever I don't have anything to say, because you're always in a new place every time.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else you want to cover, or should we move on to Mark's?
Yeah, we can probably move on. I had like found some story about like it was just like a whole bunch of just random kind of Olympic stories, but none of them were really that interesting. The only one that I found halfway funny was that there was an event in, I think, the 1908 Olympics where they thought it was a good idea to have pigeon shooting. And so they would release live pigeons, and you would get eliminated if you couldn't shoot both of them.
You say pigeon shooting, and I'm thinking clay pigeons. You mean actual
live pigeons? Yes.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, fellas, I gotta dip out. Actually, I got some stuff I gotta do. But hey, I love being on here. I'll talk to y'all in the group.
See you, man.
All right,
later.
Sorry, my headset just dropped out, so if anyone was talking to me, I didn't hear you.
Okay, so Mark, what do you have a topic for us this week?
Was I supposed to bring one?
Well, we didn't give you a lot of notice. The two guests that we had coming on the podcast dropped out, and we immediately called you today, so I wouldn't expect one necessarily, but if you got anything to talk about, sure. If you want, we can just cover Chris's things and then come back to you.
If Blake was here, we could have our debate between PC gaming and console gaming that kind of turned into a shitstorm last week, but let's not do that now. I don't know. I don't really have anything off the top of my head. Like, I mean, my mind's immediately going to things I want to bitch about, so I'm just like, Last Jedi kind of pissed me off, but then again, I've spent too much time thinking about that and arguing
we
with
can go
people
there
on different pages. So. I don't know if I can go there again.
Brian hasn't seen it, so you can tell him like the whole thing, and it'll.
Let's definitely not. Like, in my Cliff's Notes criticism of it is I think it was very, very poorly written, and I don't think I think that what I think is kind of interesting about it, and I'll say this in as spoiler-free a way as I possibly can, is Rian Johnson did something that he did in Looper that I really liked, but when he did it in Star Wars, I'm just like, oh no, why? And the thing that I'm talking about is, okay, can we do spoilers for Looper? Has anyone not seen Looper?
I've seen Looper.
Okay, so there's a scene in Looper where Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who are the same character from different time periods, are sitting at a diner, and they start kind of going over the rules of time travel in this universe. And basically, Bruce Willis is just like, "No, we're not even going there. We're not talking about time travel, because next thing you know, we're going to be drawing little charts and trying to put together maps with straws, and it's not going to make any sense." So they kind of, I thought, was a really smart way, blow over the concept of time travel in a movie that is fundamentally about time travel, because the mechanics don't really have anything to do with the story. And I thought that worked in that movie. The thing is, when you take the mechanics of the Star Wars universe and then kind of just say, none of this really matters, you're also like kind of just being like, yeah, all those movies that you saw and like TV shows that are canon still and books that you might have been reading this time, I'm just not really playing by the rules of any of that. Fuck them. Kathleen Kennedy says I can do whatever I want. Ha ha ha. And spends too much time subverting expectation, but with then nothing. Like, you had an expectation for this? I'm subverting your expectation, and the answer is nothing. And I just, like, that happens so much in that movie. The more I think about it, the more it pisses me off.
I thought that kind of played into the whole point of the movie, though, is because that
saying fuck you and your setups, J.J. Abrams?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily that. I think that, like you were saying, the subverting of the expectations, that happens to every character, that what they think is going to happen doesn't happen, and then it happens to you as the audience member. And so I think it was like this kind of meta, like, you know, putting you in the shoes of all these characters, because they all almost have the same story, just that it plays out in different ways.
That's fair, and again, like if we go into spoilers, where like it's gonna be a long conversation, but I just think that ultimately it seemed like his concept was, I'm gonna subvert an expectation that the audience or the characters may have had where something is going to happen, and my reveal is that nothing. And I think that maybe if you do that once, it's okay, but it kind of seems like that was his answer for everything, whereas I think a filmmaker that subverts something in a way that's actually impressive is when you have an expectation of what's going to happen and they do something different, but they do a different thing that is cool and better than what you thought it was going to be. Whereas I think that the subversion is that, I got you, this actually isn't important at all, fuck you. Like, no, he's not. He's in charge of a totally separate trilogy, which I'm going to be hopeful for, because I don't think he sucks as a filmmaker. I think that, like I said, I really like Looper, and I think he did some of the best episodes of Breaking Bad. So I'm not saying Rian Johnson sucks, fuck you, you ruined my childhood. I just do not think Last Jedi was a very well-written movie. Either that or it was too meta.
Directing the next one is because it did kind of feel like he wrote it backwards. Like he kind of figured out what he wanted to do with the last one first, and then was like, all right, now how can I make J.J. Abrams' story connect with mine in 2 hours?
Well, and now J.J. Abrams is doing episode 9, so J.J. Abrams has to then pick up the pieces that Rian Johnson left and try to make it all make sense. And honestly, I love Star Wars. I've loved Star Wars since before I can remember being able to speak. Like, my dad actually made me a VHS tape that had, like, an extended play VHS that had the entire original trilogy on it with text scrolls and credits cut out so that it was all on one tape for me.
Oh, nice.
And I would just watch it over and over again on the weekends. Yeah, of course. The special editions didn't exist until I was, like, 13. But anyways, like, obviously, like, those tapes were, like, worn to shit, and eventually they wore out. But, like, what I mean is I love Star Wars, and I just want it to be good. And, like, things like the Rotten Tomatoes score, like, from the critics, I don't understand how that many, like, I think it's, like, what, like, 89% or something like that? I'm just like, how? How did not more of you see that this is, like, honestly, I think the only Star Wars movie that is worse is Phantom Menace. That's it. It's like I think Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are both better movies than The Last Jedi, and that hurts me to say because my favorite character has always been Luke Skywalker, and I was so excited to see him again. But
yeah, it's funny the completely different takes that happen from this movie, because I absolutely loved it, but I think I focus on different things than a lot of people that didn't like it focus on. Like, I'm more of a, like, if a movie can make you feel what the director is trying to make you feel, that is like the most important thing to me in film, and this movie definitely did it for me. Like, and so, like, I still rank it above any of the prequels, and then you know, it even ranks above Rogue One to me, because Rogue One I felt kind of absent from the feeling of the film.
Rogue One, I think, was probably one of the most fun to watch, especially mostly because of that last act. But I think that overall story structure wise and character wise, I'd throw it somewhere in the middle, like towards the bottom of the middle. But I don't know, like, just I think that it seemed like Rian Johnson was like trying to be like, yeah, I'm going to take everything that people think a Star Wars movie is going to be like, and I'm not going to do something different but as good. I'm just going to kind of say fuck you to all of it, and that, like, that hurts. And, like, not to mention, there's tons of, like, no one has an arc. Like, like no, Finn almost has an arc. Spoiler alert. Here, I won't spoil it, but Finn almost has an arc, but it's taken from him at the last second. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, everybody has an arc. It's just that the arc is all that they all fail. Everyone in the movie fails at whatever they were trying to go for.
But they're right. They're basically right where they were at the beginning of the movie. All of them. Like what happens to Rey throughout the course of that movie?
Well, I think that was kind of the point, because, like, you know, a middle piece can't really move the characters that much, because you can't resolve something in the middle of a trilogy, and that is what kind of sucks.
Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but he was trying to do something different, like, because Rey kind of does find out, like, who she is, just in a way that, like, also reveals that she's not anybody. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, now we're veering into spoiler territory, but like, I don't know. I think that, like, you could make the argument that, like, that's kind of the point, because now, like, new generation of Jedis don't have to have any connection to Skywalkers, blah blah blah. Like, we all kind of know why they did that, but it's like, is that good? Does that make Rey not at all a Mary Sue, as, like, she's been criticized, or does it kind of make her more one that's like, no, she's actually just magically perfect, and there is no reason for it. She's just perfect, and that's the way it is. Like, that's kind of how I read that. I was just like, well, I mean, that's the thing. So, like, are we hoping then J.J. Abrams is going to be like, no, okay, there actually is a reason why Rey's awesome at everything, and it's not just because Kylo is also?
I also, to be honest, I didn't like that whole aspect of the Skywalker story to begin with. What made Luke such a great character was that he was nobody. It wasn't until Empire that all of that even became a thing, and it was just...
No. What made Luke great was that he actually followed a hero's journey that makes sense to us, that's relatable to us. Like, Luke, if you look back into New Hope, Luke Skywalker does not do anything good except for swing across a little chasm on the Death Star with Leia and blow up the Death Star. We have to essentially wait until the very end of the movie for him to succeed at anything. Aside from that, Han's saving his life.
Quick note.
Saving him at the cantina. Like, Luke doesn't really do anything. He's us. He's along for the ride with us. He gets cocky in Empire, gets his hand cut off. He's not really even a badass at all until Return of the Jedi, and his ultimate arc is deciding that he would rather die than kill his father. And yet he'd murder his nephew in his sleep. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's not the same character.
Well, I mean, he didn't murder his nephew. He just had the thought. And that makes sense because of what happened with Vader.
Lightsaber.
If I may interrupt, don't you think that making Rey, nobody's relative, just an outsider to the whole situation, don't you think that makes it easier for Star Wars to expand into new stories and new characters, and they could even have a Rey offshoot, and it wouldn't have to follow the Skywalker dynasty?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, Rey's the star of this trilogy, and yeah, I get why they did it from a functional standpoint. Like, if Disney is told, like, hey, what if we made it so that just anybody can be a super powerful Jedi? It's like, yeah, that's great, but does that make sense in the Star Wars universe, how a person with zero Jedi training can do anything?
But that's what I just find crazy, is we're so caught up in the orthodoxy of what the classic Star Wars was, when instead we could be enjoying whole new experiences. And
but you can do that and still construct characters that make sense. That's my point. Like, I mean, we've seen that in video games even. Like in The Force Unleashed, that almost seemed like the storyline in that almost seemed kind of awkward, because it's like, wait, hold on, Darth Vader had an apprentice in between episode 3 and 4. Like, how have we never heard of that? That doesn't make any sense. But then if you play Force Unleashed, they make that whole thing make sense.
Well, that's what's going on now. It's just we haven't seen enough of the new story where it's going for this stuff to make sense. No, but
my point is, when have we seen Rey learning how to do any of the stuff she knows how to do? How did she learn how to do?
They still have time to explain that. There's still plenty of stuff to go through.
I mean, and again, really, like I said, I hope
we only know
right.
the small little segment of like the Jedi versus the Sith, but like there had to have been in this whole entire universe tons of other ways for the Force to manifest itself, and we're seeing that in all the kind of.
But like,
we're seeing in a lot of the shows and stuff, like Rebels. You got the Bendu.
Oh, I think
like,
I have zero problem with Rebels. I think Rebels is awesome. I'm not saying Star Wars as a whole is pissing me off lately. I said Last Jedi pissed me off. I'm not throwing the whole franchise under the bus. But okay, here, take for example even just little things like Rey spent basically her entire life on Jakku, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When did she learn how to swim?
I mean, it's a pretty natural thing that like happens to.
No, it's not. Have you ever seen someone who can't swim get thrown into water for the first time?
Well, I mean, you're talking.
My point is, like, that could have been a moment where she struggled. They easily could have made it so that she was scared and wondering, oh my god, what am I going to do? And then managed to flop herself over to dry land when she fell into that dark side cave. But instead, she falls down, has no conflict, is able to swim perfectly to the shore, sees a bunch of reflections of herself, snaps a few times, and then that's it.
But this is somebody that's also been able to force pull a lightsaber, without any training. She's like survived on this desert planet alone for her whole life. Without any training.
The thing is, that's my problem with it. It seems that, like, instead of explaining why she can do those things, it's like they're just saying, well, fuck it. This girl can fucking do anything.
Well, we got that with Anakin, too.
Literally... Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument that Anakin is a bit of a Mary Sue. But, I mean, Anakin, at least they kind of did explain that he's essentially Force Jesus.
Yeah. But there may be more than one Force Jesus, is my...
Okay, and honestly, I think if they said, yo, Darth Plagueis or like Palpatine also created Rey as a Force baby before she died, that would have been a way better answer for me. I don't know about you guys.
I wish
I'd be
they
like, all right,
would've.
well, she's the
totally
next Force Jesus. That makes some sense.
Yeah, I was
when
totally on
when she
the...
saw the reflections of herself, I thought that was the deal. That, like, okay, she actually kind of has no parents. It's just like she was one of these beings created by the Force, just like Anakin. So that means that it doesn't have to be a Skywalker. They don't necessarily have to have the DNA. But if it was like the descendant of Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, versus the next Force baby Messiah, I'd be like, all right, I'm on board for that. But instead, it's like, no, your parents were drug addict drunks that just, like, they died somewhere or whatever. They're in a hole. You don't mean anything, and, like, you can just do Jedi mind tricks, cuz.
But don't you think it's rather compelling, instead of being part of... this long line of Skywalkers, she's a nobody, an underdog.
I know, and yes, I would agree with you if there was a reason that she could use those abilities. If she was a nobody who just happened to be Force sensitive, who was trained by somebody, even someone like Maz Kanata, who's not a Jedi but just understands the Force. Maybe she wasn't trained as a Jedi, just trained as a Force user. Shown what power she has and how to harness it. Luke had to be shown that for a long time before he was any good at it. He wasn't really we can make the argument that maybe Luke trained for a couple weeks, because in Empire Strikes Back, the entire time Luke's on Dagobah is basically when they're Han and Leia and Chewie and stuff are going through the asteroid field and everything till they ended up on Bespin. So a couple weeks maybe.
Well,
Max.
One thing to remember about Luke is that he was sheltered. His aunt and uncle knew what he was, and they were probably, purposely keeping him from exploring any sort of talent that he would get from the Force. And they were also keeping him very safe.
Rey had no guidance at all. And no, they weren't, because he was also flying T-16s and bullseyeing Womp Rats.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different than, the stuff
Anakin's only real thing was that he was a great pilot when he was on Tatooine. He was a pod racer, and that was pretty much it. He knew how to fly.
That's a lot more of a crazier situation. He was also a slave, and had to deal with all these crazy alien creatures and stuff like Sebulba and all that kind of crap. I think Luke
I'm
was
just saying,
kept a lot
in
safer than
Force Awakens. Like, also, I liked Force Awakens. Like, a lot of people dump on it and say that it was just like a remake of A New Hope, and it followed a lot of the same beats, but I didn't hate it for that. I thought that was fine. A way to, like, kind of reintroduce the core series after the prequels, but I was ready for them to give an explanation for why Rey is as powerful as she was, and, like, I would often argue, like, no, she's not just, like, randomly powerful. Like, there's going to be a reason for it. We're going to find something about her memory, or from when she was a child, she was taught how to use the Force, and she had a mind wipe, or, like, they used the Force to make her forget what the deal was so that she wouldn't reveal, like, Luke's location or whatever it is that she knew. And that's why she thought she was just like this junk person on this desert planet with nothing. And okay, if you're going to go with the, like, she has no connection to any of these people, she's just lone, it still doesn't explain how she is able to harness, how she's even aware of those powers. Like, how does she, like, if the Han Solo has to tell her, yeah, those myths about the Force, they're actually true, and that's the only time they're ever really learning about the Force in any real way. Like, how is she even aware of a Jedi mind trick and, like, able to successfully pull one off? Like, if there was a secret reason as to why, then I'd be totally fine with it. But the thing is, like, Last Jedi just essentially, as far as we know now, because, again, it's very possible that J.J. Abrams in 9 might retcon some stuff and be like, no, actually it was this, and this is how she knows this, and I'm hoping they do. But as it stands now, if they don't, she's just automatically perfect at everything. And I just don't think that makes for a very compelling character. I want to like Rey. I wish I did. But I don't, I see her as lazy writing now, and that makes me sad.
Mark.
Yeah.
You know she's a woman, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I can't I can't dislike her because she's a woman. I didn't love Princess Leia my entire life.
So naturally she's perfect at everything.
Well,
No,
it would be more appropriate.
Leia's kind of a hard ass.
You know, a domestic.
She fucks up. She isn't even able to really tell the guy that she loves him until he's about to get frozen in carbonite.
We've gone on for about 2.5 hours. Unless
I told you we shouldn't get me ramped up. You should probably just cut this whole thing.
I've had a half a bottle of wine and I kind of spaced out for that whole Star Wars segment.
Is that a lot? That was my whole plan, was to spoil the movie for you.
Okay, Wesley, it really depends, because I have had a buddy that got into drinking with his roommates. He could drink a bottle of wine and it barely would even faze him. I am a lightweight. I can drink a half a bottle of wine and suddenly I'm like in La La Land.
So compared to, like, I don't know, whiskey or beer. Oh, we've got an echo.
It's 2 drinks.
That's the drugs kicking in, Wesley.
I haven't taken my drugs yet.
You really got to look at alcohol by volume percentage, because a Budweiser will have 3 to 5% by volume, and then a hefty stout will have 8 to 10%. But a bottle of wine will have anywhere from 11%, possibly. I've seen some go up to 20%. So you're getting pretty heavy in the wines. And then you get into whiskey and you're hitting up to 20, 30%. And so it definitely affects you differently. I can drink probably 2 things of beer and I'll be okay, but I drink a thing of wine and it'll just as much, and it'll mess me up.
Because there's a law in Utah that beer has to have a lower alcohol percentage, or I'm not sure what the term is, but less alcohol per amount of liquid.
Yeah.
I'll go by volume.
Yeah, and it's very unpopular with the small percentage of people that do drink alcohol here.
It's funny. It's the alcohol laws that you get from place to place are kind of hilarious, and especially because some of them have such easy workarounds. Sometimes they seem nonsensical. I don't know.
Yeah, growing up in South Carolina, there was some times where I would be at one of my friends' houses in North Charleston, and we would go on a beer run. And because of the way that the counties were divided, one side of this road at a gas station that wouldn't sell you beer on Sundays, and literally right across the street, you could buy beer on the Sunday.
Huh.
But for alcohol by volume, you're really talking about the person's like bloodstream and stuff. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but like the bigger you are, generally speaking, the more alcohol you can consume.
That is generally true, yes. I mean, some people are bigger lightweights than others, and every so often you just can't tell why someone just is done after like 2 beers. But yeah, your body weight percentage is a pretty good indicator.
Because I remember stories about Andre the Giant just
Hell
downing
yeah.
12 cans of beer, and he wouldn't even, it wouldn't even faze him because he's such a huge dude.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I love the
Guy's
pictures of him
literally
with the
a
beer
giant.
because it was like he would just hold it with his thumb and forefinger and like it's just like a little girl with a tea set.
You can also develop a tolerance. I don't know. I drink almost every day, and my tolerance is pretty high. I can easily drink 2 bottles of wine over the course of a few hours after work and go to bed clear-headed.
That's true.
Wow. So and you can perform fine at work, and it hasn't affected anything negatively.
To be fair, I'm an alcoholic, and I have been physically dependent before.
But no, I mean, I've used to drink at work.
Oh really? Oh, I see. I hope me asking that didn't seem rude or anything. That wasn't my intent.
So let me get this straight. You were a bartender and you drank at work?
I mean, liver function also has a lot to do with it too. Like the more efficient your liver is at processing alcohol, the faster it'll get out of your system, and also the easier you'll be able to deal with it being in your system. So if you have poor liver function, you'll generally get drunk a lot faster, be more likely to vomit. Like there's a couple factors in there, but it's actually why if you guys ever have a headache from a hangover, do not take Tylenol ever. Take NSAID like acetaminophen or aspirin, because they have no effect on your liver at all. They can mess up your stomach, so you generally should eat when you're taking any of those, but don't take Tylenol if you have a hangover, because you're just really giving your liver an overload workout.
I
usually just take a drink.
That's another thing, Wesley. It makes a huge difference whether you've eaten or not before you consume the alcohol, and
Also true.
also if you've like what you eat. Like the difference between bread versus candy. Like if you eat sugar, I've personally noticed if I consume sugar and then I consume alcohol, it seems like I get drunker. Is there anything to that, Mark?
Might have something to do with the Kool-Aid mixed with vodka. Never let anyone do that ever.
That's one of the things that you have to learn for alcohol training, at least in most states when you bartend. So what you mix alcohol with can affect how it's absorbed by the body. I believe sugar and fruit juices are like one step above just consuming the alcohol itself. And then the one that actually, and I know Mark might know better than I, but we're taught that soda water, carbonation, actually increases the effects the most.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's actually kind of news to me.
So that's just like soda pop minus the flavor. Is that what?
Yeah, carbonated water.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the science behind that, though. I'd have to look that up. I'm not saying it's not right. I just don't know why.
The culture around alcohol is very bizarre to me. I don't mean that in offense. I just don't understand the obsession with it we have in the Western world. All of the side effects it can have, and I understand it's just popular in many cultures, and I'm sort of the outlier, but it is very, very interesting.
I think if I could explain it in one sentence, it lowers your inhibitions and allows people to just have
You just
fun
cut
more
out.
easily.
No, not even. It's not a matter of disconnecting. It's just you think a lot less about what you're doing.
Oh no! I meant the audio.
Oh, that was
Like,
great.
you can, you can if you drink too much. Cut out. But sorry, I didn't realize you meant my audio did.
Okay, so
So you think less about what you're doing, so it allows you to just kind of have fun, and like you're not being like, oh man, should I say this? Should I do that? You just say what's on your mind, and like some people like feeling like that, so people get drunk. It's really all there is to it.
I see. And I don't have like, I don't mean to sound judgmental. I have my, feeling about it, and it's not for me. But I do have friends who can drink alcohol, and I think that's perfectly fine. That's in their personal liberties, and even if I weren't religious, I don't think alcohol would be something I'd want to get into. Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to. It's not something that anyone needs to do, or any kind of intoxicant for that matter. But if you want to, it's there. You can try it. Just be responsible. That's the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we should jump into questions here because we're coming to the end, and I really think that these questions are important because the questions that we get from our group members are always so worthwhile.
All right, let's go.
Starting with question 1. Blake Popes asks, what does dick taste like?
Wesley.
Ask your mother, Blake.
Ooh. So
Oh
do
my
Mormon
gosh.
dicks taste different than regular ones?
Probably more judgmental and uptight.
I feel like this goes back to the whole bathing thing, and it depends on whose dick.
Christian Chapa asks, he had a comment. Okay. Joe Moore asks, nope. What's it like to be such a disappointment to your parents? I don't know who that's addressed to. Okay, here's a real one. No, this is not a real one. Joey Porter asks, if Batman's parents were dead, then how was he born?
Oh,
Joey Porter doesn't know the story of Batman.
I just did 40 minutes on Star Wars lore. You want to know about Batman now?
Here's a real one. Joey Porter says, this one's for Brian Bridges. When two gay men have sex, how do they decide whose penis will open up to accept the other person's penis?
Oh, Joe, you whore. That's from the Office.
Okay.
Oh God.
They said that on The Office?
Yeah, that's in The Office.
Wow,
Dwight and Angela ask Toby. Yeah.
Okay, this one's for Mark. From Joey Porter. This one's a real question. This is not a stupid question. I'm actually curious about this myself. Do you ever get a leg fart where your prosthetic smooshes up against your stub?
Okay, there's an answer to this. Alright, so not in the way it's asked. However, the way my leg secures to the prosthetic is I wear like a liner. It's basically like kind of a silicone, kind of like, almost like neoprene like sleeve that goes over my limb. At the end of it, about like a sixth of the way from the bottom, there's like a ring, like a rubber ring that kind of protrudes out. That is what creates the vacuum seal that actually holds my leg in there. So in order for me to put my leg on, I have to take some mixture of half rubbing alcohol and half water in a little spray bottle, spray the ring at the bottom of my liner, and then spray the inside of the prosthetic. There's a valve at the bottom that as I push the leg in and the seal forms, it pushes all the air that's out. So I wouldn't call it a fart, but as I'm putting my leg in, there is sound that is made by air being forced out the bottom of the prosthetic.
Interesting.
So yeah, kind of.
Is it uncomfortable?
No,
to wear it?
Kind of get used to it.
No, like, I mean, again, like, during the day, I don't even really notice. Like, I've just kind of gotten used to it at this point. It depends, like, if I have to do something crazy, like walk down a really uneven hill or, like, jog, Then I notice it's like, oh, okay, this is definitely not a real leg. But if I'm just like walking in a straight line or like when I'm at work, I don't even notice. And honestly, I often will like lift up my pant leg to just freak out my patients sometimes.
Another one from Mark by Christian Chapa. Have you ever gone camping in the Canadian wilderness?
It's a big part of what I had to do for my job for years and probably will have to do again. So yes, I kind of already touched on, like, I don't know if it's going to end up getting cut from the episode or not, but I got deployed in subarctic Ontario, so like up working with the natives in not quite the Arctic, but pretty close, like where it's like -50 when it's at its warmest and like even colder at night, where we got to do cool stuff like fishing with nets, which is almost like nuclear fishing, like it's unfair. The first day they said, okay, we're going to go out and go fishing. I'd just been on 3 days at that point of eating rations, and rations don't taste good. Like, some of them are all right, but for the most part, they're pretty bad. So the native rangers that are out there are just like, yeah, we're going to go get some fish. You want to come fishing? I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, I'd love to go fishing. And I'm sitting out there, like, crossing my fingers, just like, man, I hope I get a fish. I really hope I get a fish. We snowmobile out to the middle of the lake. And there's just this hole, and I was like, okay, so we're gonna do some ice fishing, like, we don't have any poles or anything, and the guy just says, like, passes me this, like, blue kind of rope thing, and he's like, here, you just pull that, and then I start pulling it out, and there's fucking, like, 70 fish that come out. I was like, oh my god. So, not only did, like, I have a fish entirely to eat by myself, but we had, like, 3 or 4 each, but what I thought was going to be a whole day fishing with maybe a decent meal at the end of it turned out to be 20 minutes fishing and then an entire day of gutting fish. And yeah, we went elk hunting and stuff too, but most of the time that we're in the field, when it's not like crazy winter warfare stuff, it's just like, you know, you're either sleeping in your ambulance or like you dig a trench and sometimes you get attacked and then you gotta run down to your trench and like fire some blanks at some people pretending to be soldiers and then try to sleep for an hour and constantly get woken up by like artillery sims and things like that. Like it's camping in the military is not super pleasant, but it's sometimes kind of fun, I guess. It's usually a lot more fun when you're looking back on it than when it's actually happening.
Yeah.
So it's not like in Fubar? Fucking camping.
It's not for not military camping, but like I mean, there's parts of Canada that are like that. They're like East Coasters, so yeah. Like, you guys ever seen like the Out for a Rip video?
No, I haven't. But Fubar is one of my favorite Canadian things ever.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Christian Chapa also asks, Ingot, what is the craziest thing that's happened to you or around you while bartending?
That's actually a tough one. It's there's a few.
Tell us a good one. It doesn't have to be the worst.
The last couple of years that I was living in Champaign, I was working for this restaurant group that had this awful bar that was kind of the redheaded stepchild of the company called Guido's. And it was sort of like a burger and shake joint during the day, but then all of a sudden at 8 o'clock at night, it was like someone flipped a switch and it would turn into just this ground and pound meat market of just the trashiest Ed Hardy t-shirt, fucking stonewashed jeans, Red Bull vodka, that kind of mess. And there's two stories that happened at that bar. So I went over there to work as the assistant general manager, and part of my job was managing and coordinating our security staff on weekend nights, which was usually like 6 guys. It's a pretty big bar. There's two levels, 8 bartenders on a Saturday night. But one time these guys, they started a fight like 3 different times in different parts of the bar. And for whatever reason, the security guys decided that they could stay as long as they agreed to leave each other alone and stay separate. And then at some point, they both went to the bathroom at the same time, and some shit went down. My head. So as my head security guy is like 300 pounds, almost 7 feet tall.
And as he's dragging this guy out of the bathroom, the other guy who was fighting with him in the bathroom, who was all of maybe 5'10", came running out of the bathroom, took like a free throw line style jump and punched this dude in the mouth over the of my security guy. I couldn't believe it. It was the craziest thing to see. And then immediately another security guy grabbed him by his throat and choke slammed him on concrete. So the mood changed.
So he's dead.
I had to fire that guy. That was way too much for the situation.
I won't go into the long details, but while I was working at the hotel, because we were across from the casino and the bar, we had some interesting guests. I remember there was a couple guys that were truckers, and they ended up getting into a fist fight in our parking lot, and one guy got his shirt torn off. I remember another one where this girl was swimming in the swimming pool without a swimming suit. She was just in her underwear and her thong underwear. And then another one where this guy was sleepwalking, and he ended up walking into our laundry room and falling asleep on the floor, and I had to go wake him up. And the worst one was this guy. It was right when I was coming out of my night shift and about to become front desk manager. This guy came around the corner to the front desk and said, "Can you call 911?" And he looked like Two-Face. Half of his face was just shredded and it was bloody, and I could see part of his bone, and he'd been mugged down in another neighborhood, and he'd walked all the way back to his room, and just in a state of shock, he didn't even realize how bad his face was until he got to the hotel and saw his reflection. And he, as soon as he did, he walked up to the front desk, and then he almost passed out. And I was like, "Just sit down. I'll call your dad. We'll get you out." It was a mess.
Dad, you need a fucking ambulance.
I asked him, but he specifically told me don't call the police, so I just let his dad deal with it.
Yeah, I would just call an ambulance anyways.
Do any of you guys know what a jigger is?
No.
We're not supposed to use those words.
That's kind of the point of the story. So another night at the same bar, one of my servers was in the service well where the bartenders put up drinks for tables, and she asked me, and this is at 11 o'clock at night, so it's busy. There's a ton of people in there, and she asked me to hand her a jigger so that she could measure out a shot for herself while we were busy. And a guy across the bar apparently thought that she said something else and decided to take his rocks glass, which is the shortest mixed drink glass that there is. And those glasses had maybe an inch of just solid glass on the bottom. Yeah. He tossed it from all the way across the bar and headshotted this bitch from
Oh boy.
Her head split open. There was blood everywhere.
Yeah, rock glass is no joke.
Yeah, that was another crazy thing that I've seen. And then just people throwing up. I mean, I once saw a guy get to the bathroom door and then projectile vomit all over the entire bathroom.
Oh god.
And I had to at the end of the night, I filled up the mop bucket maybe 10 times, and I was just throwing pails of water against the wall. And I had to clean out the drain. I don't know what this dude ate. He must have had a 4-course fucking meal, because that drain was so gross.
Well, in that industry you're in bartending, where didn't you ever just get sick of how disgusting people are and their abhorrent behavior while drunk? My experience was just with the guys at my dorm, but I couldn't stand it. I guess you'd have to have a tolerance.
Not really. It kind of comes with the territory. You expect ridiculous, absurd behavior. The thing that gets really old is and it really makes you lose your faith in humanity, is just how stupid people are. Most people, if they're not actually dumb, they're just oblivious. They don't pay attention to what's going on around them. They're not thinking, and it's really, really irritating.
Yeah. So, Choppa's next question is for Chris. Have you ever known anyone that's paid for a lot lizard? And do you ever think you'll get desperate enough to do it yourself?
Well, we kind of covered this earlier in the show. That no, I don't know anybody that's paid a lot lizard, and rarely ever see him, and that cell phone use and Pornhub on the fly is pretty much taking out that industry.
Yeah. He asks me, Brian, since some time has passed since your wife burned down, how is it like dating again? Get any pussy lately? Well, if we're going to get into real talk here, let's see, about 2 years or 3 years, 2016, after my wife left. So she left in the end of 2013, and then about summer of 2016, I did kind of try to date again. And it was actually it was an educational experience, but it was also very damaging in a way, because the girl she was actually about 12 years older than me, and I got involved with her, and she had very much the same personality type as my wife had, and so I connected with her immediately. And what I found was that it felt like I was married again. All the things that I loved about being married, I got them back. The traveling together, the having somebody to talk to, all that stuff. And it lasted for like maybe a month or two, and then she decided, because I was so into it, because I'd missed it so much, because it felt like being married again, I got a little extreme. I got a little ahead of myself, and I think I tried to make things go too fast, so she kind of pulled away, and when she did, it felt so many of the feelings that I had when I went through my divorce, they came back up. And the other thing was, because she was the same personality type as my wife, I found that a lot of the same issues arose that I had with my wife about she wants this sort of communication from me, she wants this sort of affection, and I'm not very good naturally at giving that. I have to work at it. It doesn't feel natural to me. So there was all these very similar issues that I had in my marriage that arose, and what I realized is, no, I'm not I don't think that I have healed enough from my marriage, and I don't think that I've recovered that much. So since then, a lot of the girls that I've interacted with, I've kept it pretty much at arm's length, and I've just enjoyed being their friends. But because I don't want the heartbreak, it's almost not even worth it for me yet to pursue intimacy or anything serious. So mostly I've just been friends with girls, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I've really learned to enjoy being by myself, enjoying my hobbies, and just having friends.
I get that.
And like Chris said, we got Pornhub. No.
And I mean, like, really, I think you really just need to take like a good vacation to really find yourself. I don't know, like South Africa or something like that.
South Africa is lovely this time of year.
How did your marriage end? Was it just like a...
This is kind of group lore a little bit.
What was in the question? She burnt down.
Yeah. Christian Chappa's question was phrased, some time has passed since your wife burned down. The joke here is, my wife, we had a few problems in our marriage, and I don't think that it was anything that's abnormal for marriage. I think we were pretty average, but I don't think that she was very emotionally ready to be married. I don't think she was very secure in herself to cope with the hardships of marriage. So when I was not very able to provide her with the affection in the way that she wanted, because it's not really in my nature, I'm more of a intellectual, and I'm more of a discussion, I'm more of doing actions and stuff, but I'm not so much kissy, I love you romance. And so she tended to she was a pretty girl. I mean, she was really glamorous and pretty, and so she always had attention from other guys. And even in her job in banking and stuff, she always had people coming to her front desk and hitting on her and stuff. And so there was always opportunity for her to get affection elsewhere. So that led to difficulty in our marriage, because other people said she was pretty, but I didn't. It felt like, to her, it felt like I wasn't really into her. And then on top of all of that, her dad's who was pretty old at the time, his health started getting bad, and he kind of got this, I don't remember what it's called. It was this kind of disease thing. And he died in October 2013, and her life pretty much emotionally tipped over, and she couldn't take it anymore. And then this friend of a friend, who was a fireman, ended up coming into her life, and her and I were already have problems, and she moved out of the house, and then he came along and was that white knight, and so she ended up getting impregnated by him. She divorced. Lord. Yeah, she divorced me, and she married him like really quickly in the next few months, and so that's the joke, is he was a fireman, and then last year or earlier, at the very tail end of 2017, the place where I was living burned down, and then I invited Chris to go hang out with me one day at Chico's Pizza, but then Chico's Pizza burned down. So we've got this ongoing joke about me and fires and my wife being taken by a fireman, and it's evolved and it's turned into like this fireman that burned my wife down. So now you're all in on the inside joke of the Brian and the fires and the wife burning down.
I mean, I knew about like your house burning down, and I've enjoyed those jokes, but that okay, cool.
That was a harrowing tale.
Whew, that was a heck of a question.
Yeah, man.
It's been a few years. I'm okay now, but yeah, the answer to that question is I'm not really looking into getting into relationships. I'm more just enjoying it.
How long were you guys together for?
In total, maybe 7 or 8 years.
Jesus.
In marriage, maybe 3 years.
I was with a woman for 5 years. We decided to call off the engagement, but we still talk. We're still friends to this day. But...
Yeah. So Joey Porter asks, are humans getting better through the generations? And I'm going to say no, right off the bat.
Yeah, have you listened to the past 3 hours here?
I'm going to say that technology has gotten better, but humans in their nature have not so much. Maybe in certain...
let's qualify better. I mean, we're certainly better at doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, that interacting with each other is one of them. I think, actually, we kind of hit a peak probably around 2008 or so, and we've been sort of going downhill since.
There's kind of that 1% that riffs off of the people before them, and they're able to carry everyone, but a lot of the people are just normies. Rodney Combs asks, hey, Mark, what's your opinion in French Canadians? I say on French Canadians.
On French Canadians, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
I don't know, they're cool. Like, I mean, I work with a lot of them. Like, the military, I think, is something like 60% French Canadians. So, like, realistically, there's more francophones in the military than there are anglophones, because a lot of our military is in Quebec. A lot of them are from Quebec. I think just because military is seen as a more desirable career than it is to a lot of the anglophone provinces. No, not very well. I mean, I can kind of understand it. I actually read it better than I can listen to it, and if I had to piece together a rough sentence, I probably could. But only for the purpose of conveying an idea. I can't really have a conversation. It's one of those things, like, I mean, you guys probably did similar stuff with Spanish. Like, I took it until, like, grade 9. Like, just kind of elementary school level, and then, like, 1 year of high school, you do well enough on that one, and then you can drop it. And, like, I didn't realize I'd be going into the military, otherwise I might have stuck with French. But ultimately, like, unless you get fluent, it doesn't really matter how many high school grades you go to in French. But one of my best friends moved to Montreal, and he's like engaged to a French Canadian girl. She's really sweet. Montreal is actually a really cool town to visit if you guys ever do come to Canada. I don't really live anywhere close to it, but
I would love to go to Montreal.
It's essentially like Canadian Vegas, I guess. Like if Toronto is the New York of Canada, then Montreal is probably the Vegas. Like, it's the place where there's, like, a casino and a bunch of strip clubs and stuff.
Oh, well, that isn't the reason I wanted to go. I just really, really like French.
Their restaurant culture is amazing. Joe Beef is one of my favorite restaurants in the world.
Yeah. Lots of good food in Toronto, too, though. If you go to Toronto, you wouldn't be upset of the food. I honestly, like, I went to University of Southern California for a summer semester, so I was there for about 4 months, 3 months, something like that. And I probably tried to eat burritos everywhere I possibly could in like South Central Los Angeles, downtown LA. And there was a lot of great ones. But the best burrito I've ever eaten in my life is still Burrito Banditos in Toronto. It's so good. I miss it every day, and like now I'm 4.5 hours away from Toronto, and I'll go every time I go visit my parents. I make sure I pop into Burrito Banditos and get at least one burrito, steak burrito with guacamole. It is the best.
I'll have to try it next time I'm in Toronto.
There's also there's every kind of other food because Toronto is a very multicultural city, so if you want legit Indian food, there's that. The best Chinese food, go to Chinatown.
I had some amazing curry when I was in Toronto.
We're pushing just over 3 hours here, so I think I'm gonna call it. You can find us on Podbean, you can find us on iTunes, you can find us on YouTube, and I'm trying to get us on Google Play, but I keep forgetting it and keep getting sidetracked. But I made myself a note. I thank you guys all for joining me. Do any of you have any last words or anything you want to discuss?
I would just like to say that I'm not an anti-Semite.
Okay.
let's the cyborg guy is not a racist or
yeah, let's all distance ourselves from Wesley here at the end of the podcast.
I never said anything anti-Semitic. I just pointed out.
You brought up
what?
The biometrics thing is what got me. I'm not saying you're an anti-Semite. It's just this episode took a couple of turns.
It definitely did. Well, once I heard you're gonna rate the Jews, I didn't know what in relation to all the other types of people, or what do you mean by that? But for the record, I had an on again, off again thing with a Jewish girl for 6 years, and she was wonderful.
How was her nose?
She's beautiful. She's a beautiful girl.
No, I hope you all know I just like to tease. But I would remind everyone to vote on the meme contest. And do we know if there'll be another one after? Do we have any long-term plans?
There will likely be another one.
Likely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you guys invite me to compete. I don't have to dunk my captions on the main thread.
I would like to say that I would like to see more meetups.
I think we all
Mark.
I mean, Jamie and Brooke, I think, is going camping in my area, my actual area, not even Jamie's area, sometime soon. But I mean, that's it. I don't really live near anyone else.
We're trying to get a Chicago one up. I know Tim was talking about coming down from Milwaukee. I think there's 4 other people from Chicago that are in the group, but I think they all just lurk. I've never heard from.
Is anyone in California? I'm going to Los Angeles in March.
I will not be in California anytime soon.
Tony's from San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm just going to be in LA. Tony's probably going to be like, yeah, you're not coming up to SF to visit me, you fucking racist.
I wish I would have known Tony was in San Francisco. I was just in there in the summer.
Oh. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm glad that we got some emergency backup guests since our first 2 bailed on us, but it was an interesting podcast. I liked it. So I'll see you guys around the group.
It's been fun.
All right, take it easy.
Everybody.
All right, see ya.
Adios.
Adios.